Well, 30 minutes early. This is Query and Company, but we'll go ahead and intro this as The Ride with JMV. Eddie Garrison's over there. James is going to join us coming up at the 3 o'clock hour. I guess we're officially off the fever clock right now, so we can just say it. They stink. That was awful. That was terrible. 9 points in the second quarter, 19 in the third, 10 in the fourth. That was a brutality of the game of basketball. It really was. And it's too bad. I know that you're always going to say, well, you know, Caitlin Clark is back and you got to work through some things and it's going to take a while to acclimate. Let's face it, it has been fleeting with this team, even when she's been a part of it, that they look like that they are a challenger for anything. But that was just awful. That was just awful basketball over the course of the afternoon. Caitlin Clark, upon her return, 4 of 12 from the floor, 10 points, and it was a major malfunction across the board. Their leading scorer, Kelsey Mitchell, had 12. Leah Boston, 2 of 8 from the floor. She had 6. And it was as ugly. All you really need to do, normally I would direct you not to be a box score reader in how you evaluate a game. This, I think, does it well. You can look at this box score and know exactly how that game went because they were terrible. And one of these days, it'd be nice if you can get back into gear and find a little bit of something because, as they like to say in Southern Indiana, that ain't it right there. I mentioned Eddie Garrison as the the halftime, and the post-game show host. What is wrong with this group right now?
They look discombobulated out there. They didn't play with a ton of heart.
They stink.
Or energy today. Like, you would think that the return of Caitlin Clark would bring some energy back into the team, but they did.
Oh, you got
none.
This matinee going in the afternoon. You got kids roaming around everywhere. I mean, listen now, everybody is there. People are coming. The attraction is there, but the brand of basketball is not it.
They just haven't been able to put it all together yet, John. Like, they've had games where they look really good defensively and it leads them to wins. They've had games where they've looked good offensively, but they find ways to blow it at the end. And today it was just, at the end of the quarters, I highlighted that in the first 3 quarters, they get outscored in the final minutes 34-3. Like, what?
34-3.
Yes, they get outscored 7-0 in the final 3 minutes of the first quarter, 18-2 in the final 7 of the second. And then it was 9-0 in the final 3+ minutes of the fourth or third.
So Eddie Garrison over there, he's a part of the Fever Radio Network. I would ask you this because you're around it a hell of a lot more than I am. Hell, I can't even get anybody on the show. 9-10 on the season, and given how much Caitlin Clark has actually been out there, I look at this as still a major disappointment because I also look at just how they're playing basketball. And there has been a lack of consistency. There's been a lack of consistency and really some malfunctions going on at the end of games. All you have to do is look to the LA Sparks and those performances. Where is the level of disappointment, even with the injury situations and the DeWanna Bonner stuff that you had to navigate through? Because clearly that was a bad offseason signing. 9-10 is at what level of disappointment as we approach the All-Star break?
I would say on a scale from 1 to 10, it's a 7 or an 8. Like, this was a team that had championship aspirations and championship expectations, and you're hovering around 500 without Caitlin Clark. You're hovering 500 with Caitlin Clark, so that says that there's not really much of a difference between when she is out there and when she's not out there. Just consistency. Like, they have 2 other good players in Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston. Now, I will say, Stephanie White did also note that it would probably take some time. It would take probably another week or 2 before this team really started to come together, and they would start looking a lot better post-All-Star break once they have a lot of time together. But even still, they don't have a ton of time.
They're playing an expansion team and just got absolutely blown off the floor.
It was only 3rd time this year that they had all their players healthy.
And I think Golden State was probably playing at like 6 a.m. San Francisco time, right?
Yes, they were, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sorry. If this is the level in which you want to be talked about, this is the level in which you're going to be criticized, and that was awful, absolutely awful. And I'm not really going to sit here and want to listen to excuses about, well, it's the first game back for her, and this, and this is going to take a while. People aren't paying the price of admission for this to take a while.
Nope.
The expectations were very high, and let's just face it, they're not living up to it.
Plain and simple. And
All right.
I don't even know where to go. Like, what changes? Like, they made a change to the starting lineup today. It was Ari McDonald in there with Caitlin Clark, thinking that kind of like with Tyrese Halliburton, you get her off the ball a little bit, alleviate some of the pressure, maybe it frees her up, maybe it frees up others, and just did not work today.
It is, that was a discombobulated mess. I kind of just looked. It's funny. Normally, I would suggest to everybody, don't just look at the box score. You got to watch the game, right? I said that how many times in the past couple of years, especially with the Pacers in mind. Don't just read the box score. But I think in this case, you could take everything you need to know from the box score because they got off to a juiced, terrific start. And somewhere at the end of that first quarter, Eddie, it just all went away. And they never were able. That was like a 3-quarter mess right there because I thought at the outset, I was listening to John and Bria make the call. I thought at the outset that they had something going. They were looking consistent. They were offensive. They were out to, a 9-point lead. And then at some point toward the end of the first quarter, that all went away, and it's something they just couldn't find again. They couldn't regain it.
Just got too careless with the basketball. 3 turnovers to conclude the first quarter. A large part of those were self-inflicted live ball turnovers instead of dead ball turnovers, and it felt like they were trying too hard to be perfect at certain points in the game where it started to bog down offensively and things started getting difficult. And they're like, okay, we're going to try to slow this down. And it became too slow to where it felt like everyone was just standing there and not really moving around and playing the type of basketball that they want to play. And it starts and ends with Caitlin Clark. Like, she's got to be better.
What type of seriously, you would know much better than I would here. What type of basketball do they want to play? Because I thoroughly enjoyed the product they had a year ago, but in year number 1 of Stephanie White, I don't know what we're supposed to enjoy out of this right now.
They're trying
when she's active and when she's not active.
They're trying to play a similar style like the Pacers where they want to run up and down the court. Everyone touches the basketball. Everyone's moving around and touching it, and you're getting 2 feet into the lane, kicking out and getting to the basket, creating open 3-point looks, but it just hasn't worked, especially with this lineup. Like, Ari McDonald in her career has been just over 30% as a 3-point shooter, and you sub out Lexi Hull, who's arguably the best shooter right now in the WNBA, at least statistically, certainly the best shooter
from
on the
corner,
Fever.
when she's shooting from the corner, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she's like 56% going into today on 3-pointers. And you take your best threat from out there, and you put her on the bench, and you've got, I don't know if the pairing of Natasha Howard and Aaliyah Boston will help floor spacing either, just because neither one of them are shooting a ton of threes, and if they are, they're pretty unsustainable and unreliable.
It's the curse of DeWanna Bonner is what you're talking about right here. The curse. I will ask you this, and I'll tell you what, we'll tease this and go to a break. Again, this is Query & Company. I start coming up at 3 o'clock, but the Fever game ended, and it was probably good for Fever fans. It did end because the basketball quality was terrible in a loss to the Valkyries of Golden State earlier today. Query & Company here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. We'll tease this, Eddie, and I'll ask you on the other side. We gave the Pacers a buffer zone a year ago, and that buffer zone, it paid off. We gave them until the turn of the calendar, and then they really turned it up. Can we say the same thing about the Fever? Can we give them what Stephanie White had mentioned, a little bit of time, or simply put, should this product be much better than it is right now regardless? Are there comparisons to be made there? Quick break, we'll come back. Eddie Garrison, JMV, Query & Company. As we approach the 3 o'clock hour, we'll get started. I mentioned Brooks Barnheiser of OKC. Bria Goss of the radio network of the Fever joins us as well. And then James will be in here with a lot of stuff we have to give away. I shall explain coming up next. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Oh, the Fever. Woo! That was not good. 80-61, the final. So the Fever, I mentioned this to Eddie Garrison, who is still in here, the halftime, and the post-game show host on the Fever Radio Network. 23 points, and everything was looking good up until the end of the first quarter. They had a 9-point advantage, and then everything fell apart, and they were an absolute mess the rest of the way. Turning it over, missing shots. 9 points in the second, 19 in the third, and 10 in the fourth. This game, with an expansion team on the road from San Francisco, mind you, in Golden State, which was, what time was it? It tipped at noon, so 9 a.m. San Francisco time, 80-61. That, simply put, can't happen, no matter what excuse you want to give. Caitlin Clark was not good in her return. Neither were her teammates today. 80-61 is the final. The Fever now 9-10, and hopefully things go much better with their next contest with Atlanta. I did want to remind you of this, 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan Invitational Golf Outing, presented by Franciscan Health on Thursday, August the 7th. The tee time is 10 a.m. at Legends Golf Club. Shout out to Ted Bishop down in Franklin. You have your foursome ready? Is this from Caddyshack?
It is.
This where Noonan and Lacey are heeing and sheeing in that scene right there? I like it.
I'm going to take your word for it. I've never seen Caddyshack.
You haven't, what? See, what's interesting, James will be in here, and he probably hasn't seen it either. I can't believe I'm actually with anybody that's never seen Caddyshack. Judge Smales walks in, and I like it. Hey, be a part of this, too. It is going to be fantastic with the Franciscan Foundation. Meaningful impacts with really every swing. Fantastic day. Yeah, this leads into I'm All Right by Kenny Loggins right there. Thursday, August the 7th, 10 a.m., the Legends Golf Club in Franklin. Get signed up with your foursome. A rumor has it that they're going to put a basketball goal up somewhere around a tee box. So every time you guys come around, you can shoot me. We'll have a shoot-off. And, hell, I'll even drink if you want, and I'll still beat you. So we'll have a shoot-off. I'll do a little music like JMV Takeover style. Make sure you're a part of it. It will be, I promise you this, legendary, 1075thefan.com. Thursday, August the 7th. It is the Fan Invitational Golf Outing. All of us, I think with the exception of Boyd, will be on hand for it. I think he's going to be in Baltimore for a Colts-Ravens situation. But be there. I promise you a great time. And believe me, when I promise you a great time, I deliver a great time. Sign up right now, 1075thefan.com. I mentioned the Fever losers 80-61 to the Valkyries of Golden State. I also teased this into the break, Eddie, as the pre-halftime and post-game show host. And you also obviously run things for Mark Boyle and Eddie Gill and Pat Boylan on the Pacers Radio Network. Can you look at the Fever start, a game below 500 right now, given what they have had to deal with? Can you look at that kind of like you did the Pacers? They were without Neesmith. They were discombobulated. And then once the calendar turned from 2024 to 2025, they got things together. Can you view these things somewhat in a similar fashion with the Fever in mind here?
I mean, I think you have to. I mean, Indiana's played half their games now, pretty much, with Caitlin Clark and without her. I mean, there's no other way around it. If your best player's not out there, who your system is, built around, then you have to give it time. But unfortunately for the Fever, they don't have the time like Indiana does. Their schedule is only a total of 44 games, and they've now played 19, and they're teetering on the verge of being in or being out of the playoffs, and they're teetering on the being one of the final seeds in. And if that's the case, then you're looking at going up against a very, very good Minnesota Lynx team. Yeah, you did beat them once, but can you beat them in a series? Or New York? You've beat them once, you split, but can you beat them in a series? The pieces are there for them to be successful. It's just consistency. And when we talk about teams that lack consistency, that's just a description of a 500 team, and that's where they're at right now.
All right. Give me your thoughts. The return of Caitlin Clark, but it wasn't good. 10 points, 5 rebounds, bad shooting again. That was eerily reminiscent to those games prior to her going on the injured list with the groin situation. Is that a lingering effect for her, or is this kind of where she is right now, just overall in her offensive game? Is that fair to say?
I don't think it's fair to say just yet. I think after a certain amount of time, then maybe, just because the track record of her being a really good three-point shooter and above average shooter and facilitator with the basketball, that's the part to me that she has to really focus on and improve the most. Turned it over 4 times, but prior to that, she turned it over like nearly 50 times in like the last 6 games. It was some outstanding, or not outstanding, but some god-awful stretch of basketball where she just wasn't taking care of the ball. Like, if you're going to have the ball in your hands that much, you have to be able to take care of it. That is where her main focus needs to be, because as a shooter, John, there's days where your shot doesn't fall.
Yeah.
There's days where it falls, but most of the time it's somewhere in the middle.
35%, 23%, 33%. I believe those are her last 3 shooting percentages in a game. And, I mean, you can make the argument, well, and she did. I thought she looked a little dinged before she ended up going on the injured list. Of course, that's notwithstanding, her return was incredible, if you remember that, when she came back the first time. But it has not been – it's been consistent here recently offensively when she has played. It's been consistently inaccurate.
Yeah, and they have to get used to playing together, because Ari McDonald is new. She's still getting used to playing with Natasha Howard. They have to get Aaliyah Boston involved more because of how great she's been this year. I never really felt like she was involved. The game plan was largely centered around trying to get Caitlin Clark within the flow of the offense, and I think there has to be a point in time where you have to quickly realize when you don't have it or when you do have it, and if you don't have it, you got to find ways to get others involved. And Aaliyah Boston never got involved. Natasha Howard didn't get involved. Kelsey Mitchell struggled because of it. It was just an all-around mess.
Be honest with you, you're a Reds fan too. I would almost rather watch the last 2 nights of the Reds than watch that game this afternoon. That's how brutal that was.
Last night was brutal.
12-2. If that Richardson guy comes out there with the ball ever again, I'm going to lose my mind.
I don't know what it is with Tito and his love for Richardson.
He sucks bad.
10 appearances in the last 20 games.
Good God Almighty. Can you not find anybody else to pitch? Anybody, for God's sake. That's a mess right there, really is. Eddie Garrison, everybody, is the producer of Query and Company. Jake is on the road. Actually, not even on the road. He's in the air right now on his way to Manchester, England, to see Liam and Noel Gallagher, the leads of the band Oasis. And provided they don't hate one another and break up again prior to the show, he's going to see Oasis. I believe the Verve opens up for Oasis over there. If you remember the song Bittersweet Symphony that they didn't see a dime for because they violated a copyright, the Verve opens up for Oasis.
Oh, Jake will be thrilled. That's one of his favorite songs.
Bittersweet Symphony?
Yeah.
They didn't get a dime. They violated a copyright, and I think the Rolling Stones made them give all that money up to the Rolling Stones because the Rolling Stones need all that money. You know that to be true. It's Eddie Garrison right there. This is Query and Company. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We will start the show officially. James, you don't have to roll the intro. The intro has been rolled. We got Brooks Barnheiser. We got Bria Goss. We got you, Earth, Wind, and Fire tickets, Dave Matthews Band tickets, the sounds of summer at the Indiana State Fair, and you Yip Yappers at 239-1070 on a variety of things, including this stank fest that we had to witness a little bit earlier today at Gainbridge Fieldhouse with the Fever losing. We've got that for you coming up. Fever, Valkyries conversation. Miles, not yet, but Rick Carlisle had something to say on a podcast. You might be interested to hear that. We have that for you also coming up. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
We're not going to fall for a banana in the tailpipe.
You're not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe?
It should be more natural, brother. It should flow out like this. Look, man, I ain't falling for no banana in my tailpipe.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Losing Miles Turner is a significant loss for our team. I mean, the guy's been a terrific player. He had a great season. And look, we were talking to them, talking to them meaning his agent, about him returning. And, really kind of out of nowhere, Milwaukee decided to waive Damian Lillard and stretch his money out over whatever number of years you can do it by rule. And then they created space to sign Miles. And so I think what probably happened, and this is part of negotiation in any sport, a team will say, hey, look, we have this offer. It's this much over this many years. But if we make this offer, we need to know that you're going to take it and not shop it. I believe that that's what probably happened with Milwaukee. They just jumped at it, and there was never a chance to counter. Those things happen. And when they do, you just got to keep going.
So Rick Carlisle with Chris Long on his podcast, the former NFLer and the Pacers head coach. If you missed that via social media, that was his explanation for the Pacers needing to go out and refurbish their pivot position. Thank you for joining us into the 3 o'clock hour. Aquarian Company, as I finish that up after the Fever game. 80-61 Golden State over the Fever. The Fever now 9-10 on the season, and the return of Caitlin Clark was not fantastic. 10 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and her offensive game, which went really much like the rest of her team's offensive game. It was, honestly, it was a disaster. They were an absolute disaster against Golden State. And you can talk about coming back from an injury and not, being cohesive and all, whatever all that is. They were terrible. That's it. They were terrible offensively. And it didn't look like that at the outset of the game. First quarter, they put up 23. But it was at the end of the first quarter when things began to go haywire, when they couldn't hit a shot, they were giving the ball up too frequently, and you watched Golden State take over at that time, and then the Fever couldn't do anything offensively in the second quarter, and really for the rest of the game. 9 points in the second quarter, 19 in the third, and 10 in the fourth. They lose to Golden State 80-61 is the final. Now 9-10 on the season, and as we approach the All-Star break, I know they have Atlanta coming up here too, but as we get closer and closer to the All-Star break, it is kind of been a familiar tone. And I equated it to hopefully being something like what we saw with the Pacers in not a dramatic turnaround, but it was a step-by-step turnaround that basically began once 2025 got here. And then we saw the culmination with them in the NBA Finals, going 7 games with Oklahoma City. But we were wondering about them through December. I'm not suggesting these things are alike. I think you can draw a couple of different parallels. And I know that you can drop the excuse, well, we haven't had our team together that much, that often, or whatever. That was a mess today. That was more than just, well, they're not been together. And this looked like you just pulled somebody. Really, 3 quarters, it looked like you pulled people off the street to play. Second, third, and fourth quarters. And I don't care what you say, there is zero reason to look like that. Unless maybe right now that is kind of who you are as a team. And those are the things that Stephanie White and company need to figure out, and probably should expedite the process of figuring that out. Because that was some unacceptable and incredibly ugly basketball play for the better part of 3 quarters, really 3 plus, if you want to get into the first quarter earlier today. Hey, thank you for joining us. We got stuff to give away. I'll talk about that. I don't know how much you want to get into the words of Rick Carlisle And what it does, it kind of mirrors what everybody else says. And I go back to last Wednesday, Bobby Marks was on, and he started the ball rolling with, well, one thing is you have Milwaukee that is incredibly proactive about a target that they want. And when you go that high and you go to a level in which we have never seen, nobody thought they were going to be able to do that. And once they did, it seems like, and I would agree, it seems like Miles has said, okay, see you later, I'm done. But now it's the Pacers' angle, and I don't know how much we're going to see. We're going to see, obviously, their Summer League team, which begins tomorrow, play in Las Vegas against Cleveland. Get OKC in Summer League coming up on Saturday. But I think we're most interested in how some of these parts are going to look in not completely unfamiliar situations. And I think that's the reason why I have more of a deeply rooted belief in them to be able to withstand and be competitive than a lot of others do. Yeah, Tyrese Halliburton is just absolutely as catastrophic a loss as you can have for this Pacer team. But Andrew Nembhard has played the position. Andrew Nembhard embodies the position, to be honest with you. I have a great deal of confidence in Andrew Nembhard. A lot of you disagree, but that's okay. And the only thing we're going to have is the proof once it happens. But Benedict Mathurin, I have a great deal of confidence in Benedict Mathurin. I know he gets wild, gets loose a little bit, but he does have a certain mentality that this team does not have a lot of. Now, if you could maybe combination that up with other maybe more calming influences, that would be great. But at the same time, I do have a belief in Benedict Mathurin. The one thing about the pivot is they have some bodies, and there's going to be some differences there. There are going to be moments when you're going to think, okay, well, this is all right. And there are going to be moments when you're going, all right, so they do miss 33 a great deal. And that's what happens essentially in any of these situations where you talk about a group when it's by committee. When you have a replacement for one by committee, and there really wasn't anything out there on the market that you really got excited about. I mean, you get excited about Luke Cornett or Clint Capella or, you know, who's still out there, Al Horford. I mean, what bigs were you getting excited about? I mean, hell, some of you, I think, were excited about Naz Reid, but Naz Reid kind of started all this to a degree, I think, and then Milwaukee ended it. So when you have a situation and then you have to follow it up and describe it by committee, seriously, they're all the same here. You just don't know. It's quarterback by committee, running back by committee. You have fleeting moments when you get like thunder and lightning as a running back, or when you get the same as a quarterback. But when you're trying to replace one with two or three in this case right here, that is going to take a moment. It's going to take a moment from the players. It's going to take a moment for the understanding, I should say, of the coaching staff and the head coach, the balance of which you try to utilize their particular talents and what situation you do so. What is most beneficial? Who do you close with, for example? Do you close with? Do you go small and close with Obi? All these will be answered when the season starts. It is weird, right? Because normally we are so deeply involved by now into Colts conversation, but because we went so lengthy with the Pacers, it still seems far away to me. We're a couple of weeks away from the start of Colts camp. They report the 22nd. They practice on the 23rd. We're going to be out there a number of times. I think the other shows are out there more than me because the practice times are more conducive for that. But normally we are already deeply rooted into it. And I think that maybe you're a bit worn out on all the dialogue and the conversation regarding the two quarterbacks. But I think you're equally getting tired and want to move on with this Pacers situation. All right, what are we looking at right now compared to, what has happened, why it happened? Because honestly, you're not going to know any more until you actually hear from 33 at that initial press conference in Milwaukee. And still, I don't know how much you're going to glean from that. That's ultimately all you have left. And that'll be it. But it is still going strong, and normally by now we are absolutely rotten with Colts comment. Hell, outside of the quarterbacks, what else you trying to bring up? You trying to sell yourself on this team being 7.5 over under Vegas odds? That's normally where they are, or where they have been most recently. The same old right there. Maybe that's why you're not deeply into it as of yet. We got that conversation for you. If you want to go Colts angle, we certainly can. If you want to do a little college football, we can do that because we're just about set. Little Phil Steele on the horizon here and not too far away from getting into that conversation. Year 2 of Kurt Signetti. You're one of the Oldham era going on in West Lafayette. Playing off of, for you Notre Dame fans, with the Fighting Irish. So, yeah, we're still in the very early stages, but that is about ready to get underway. We were mentioning with Eddie Garrison, Major League Baseball, and I know even with the loss, Cubs fans are still incredibly excited. Go ahead and be excited. That's okay. The alternative is to be a fan of the Reds and watch that crap fest that you had to watch last night, or really the last 2 nights. Now, it's almost like the Reds are settling into what normalcy is. And we approach next week the Major League Baseball All-Star break. And then obviously we'll get into the Summer League play with the Pacers and their Summer League roster. That is coming up tomorrow against the Cleveland Cavaliers and their Summer League team. Hell, everything else around the NBA is going spectacularly so far. That's one thing the NBA should love because they have really bridged the gap here. I saw Kevin Durant talking about how he came back and what it all entails to come back from an Achilles injury. I will say this, man. Halliburton gets it. Halliburton is active and out and about, still recovering from that injury. Rocking the boot. That is the way that it should be. At the game earlier today, in case you missed this, the champion OKC Thunder, a fully guaranteed 5-year max rookie contract extension for Chet Holmgren. That is worthy of around $250 million for Chet Holmgren. People wondered about that, and that's where people are with that. $250 million. Everybody was wondering about that. Now, I saw this a little bit earlier. The Pacers signed, at least according to Michael Scotto and some others here, too, their Cam Jones. 4-year, $8.7 million deal. That's according to Hoops Hype, by the way. First year guaranteed. Now, we talked to his head coach at Marquette last week. If you missed any of that conversation, Shaka Smart was on the show. Talking about how he thought that the team mentality was certainly part of it. And I love that. It's why I have that belief in this Pacer team right now, is because I have a belief in the team concept that prevails. Cam Jones, 4 years, first year fully guaranteed, according to Hoops Hype. That a little bit earlier today. Nearly 19 and a half, and nearly 6 assists per game for the former Marquette guard. And we'll see if, when, how, at what point he works himself into things as well. All right, we got that for. I mentioned Brooks Barnheiser is going to join us, the former Indiana All-Star from Lafayette, Jeff. And you know the story, the son of Mark Barnhizer. I get a great deal of enjoyment watching him play. Did again last night, 12 points and 6 rebounds. And the Thunder Summer League loss to Utah in Salt Lake City. They were 1-2, I think, in the Salt Lake City games of the Summer League. Now everything goes to Las Vegas, and they will be a part of that. Actually, Brooks Barnheiser is a member of OKC, and they play tomorrow night. I think it might be Brooklyn. I'll have to look again. The Pacers get the Cavaliers, but it may be Brooklyn for the Thunder. But you get OKC and the Pacers coming up on Saturday in the Summer League out in Vegas. And the second round selection, the legacy, collegiately speaking, is Northwestern. High school-wise, it's Lafayette, Jeff. Brooks Barnheiser is going to join us coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. I am incredibly proud of him. He joins the show coming up after 5. Bria Goss, the 2011 Miss Basketball in the state of Indiana, from what I gather, is still playing. Well done. Part of the Fever Radio Network. Bria is going to join us coming up at the 4 o'clock hour. James Boyd from the Morning Show. James Boyd is going to be across the board from the Morning Show and the Athletic. Not just the Pacers, not just the Fever, but some Colts conversation as well. We're going to be triple threat position. That's a basketball term, by the way. Triple threat position with James coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Meantime, 239-1070 is the number. Email address is jmv1075thefan.com. The AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. We do have a number of things to give away today. Earth, Wind, and Fire tickets. That is Wednesday, the 23rd. So the same day, the first practice of the Colts at Grand Park in Westfield, you have at Everwise Amphitheater, Earth, Wind, and Fire together. We've got tickets for that coming up. We have Sounds of Summer for the Indiana State Fair. We are not too far away from the opener of the Indiana State Fair. A lot of entertainment out there. We'll give you a chance to win those tickets a little bit later on. And this weekend, hopefully you become a AAA member, because we know this to be true. AAA members get the incredible perks: early entry, premier lounge entrance, which is awesome, great deals on tickets. This weekend, you have yet another back-to-back with the Dave Matthews Band at a Ruoff Music Center. And by the way, too, with the AAA membership, you get perks at Ruoff, you get perks with the Indians, you get perks with Symphony on the Prairie. It all works in perks, but you got to become a AAA member today. And why not? You're going to go out on a summer vacation on the road. They got your back 24/7, 365. Some of you lock your keys in your car. Some of you, for whatever reason, press the issue and you run out of gas on the road. Maybe you have tire issues. I don't know any of you that want to be changing a stinking tire out there on the side of a road. That is AAA having your back 24/7, 365. Become a AAA member today and also get incredible perks. And, of course, this weekend, Dave Matthews Band back-to-back at Ruoff Music Center. Dave Matthews Band tickets we have for you coming up a little bit later on in the Wednesday edition of the Harrah's Hoosier Park Race of the Day. We have put it up there at JMV 1070. Make sure you select a horse. We'll put you in the gate, and the winner gets 50 in betting and 50 in dining, courtesy of Harrah's Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson. If you're asking how you do that, at JMV 1070. And get started that way. Get yourself a horse. James will set it up. And then the winner, if you're fortunate enough, 50 in betting and 50 in dining, courtesy of Harrah's Hoosier Park Racing and Casino. That is in Anderson. Harrah's Hoosier Park Race of the Day, Tuesday through Friday, 5 o'clock hour here on The Fan. The Wednesday edition is coming at you in the 5 o'clock hour. Make sure at JMV 1070 you are a part of that. Again, that reminder, the Fever, a loser in what was an absolutely awful game. Outside of the first quarter, an awful game. 80-61 to Golden State. Bria Goss is going to join us from the Fever Radio Network. We'll talk up that loss and what is going haywire with the Fever right now for the most part. No consistency whatsoever, and that was just really bad. A product of what? Question mark. Bria Goss coming up after 4. Brooks Barnheiser, OKC, second-round selection, their Summer League team. In Vegas, Brooks Barnheiser coming up after 5. But from the morning show, I know Kevin's been off this week, right? So it's been Jeff Rickard and James Boyd. Also from The Athletic, James Boyd who I'm assuming was also covering the Fever and the Valkyries a little bit earlier today. James Boyd is set to join us next. All right, 239-1070 is the number. You guys can get on here. We're ready to yip yap. The stream, the app, it's HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. James Boyd and you on the other side on this Wednesday. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
don't know what the hell's in there, but it's weird and pissed off, whatever it is.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
That just decided to come up on its own right there.
Well, since I'm using Eddie Garrison's Spotify and not mine, it was turned halfway down.
It had a soft lead up right there with this DeBarge song. We can't have it. DeBarge has to be heard and heard fully. James over there, I'm John. Earth, Wind, and Fire, Dave Matthews Band. The Sounds of Summer. Count them up there. 3 different opportunities, including the Harris Leisure Park Race of the Day, for you guys to win something. A little bit later on, too, Brooks Barnheiser of OKC. Summer League play in Vegas starts for the Thunder tomorrow, as it does for the Pacers. Pacers get the Cavaliers. The Thunder and the Pacers get Summer League matchup number 1. Actually, in game number 2 for them both. That is on Saturday in Las Vegas. Brooks Barnheiser, the second round selection, coming up at the 5 o'clock hour. Bria Goss from the radio network of The Fever, the 2011 Miss Basketball in the state of Indiana, joins us coming up at 4. But on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, he was on this morning with Jeff Rickert. Morning show, 7 until 10. Did that matinee, I'm assuming, with the Fever and the Valkyries. That was an absolute disaster for the Fever for the better part of 3+ quarters earlier today, and that loss 80-61 to Golden State. And now joining this show from the Athletic and the Fan morning show, it's James Boyd on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hello, James.
What's up, brother?
That was some awful basketball that we witnessed today for 3 quarters, James. What the hell?
Yeah, that was bad basketball. When I was looking at the box score in the press room before Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark and Lexi Hull came out, I realized just how bad it was. I'm like 9 points in the second quarter, 10 points in the fourth quarter. Just yuck, yuck, yuck basketball.
Yeah, I thought Lexi Hall and Ari McDonald probably played better at Salad Chick yesterday with the fans than they did in front of the fans. That was awful, just really awful. And how do you hard target this? Where do you start? Is it what Stephanie White said about this team, just not gelling together yet because of injuries and this and that, or is it a little bit more deeply rooted as we approach the WNBA All-Star break?
I think it's deeper than that. We were in the media room. I believe it was Scott Agnes who asked, Caitlin Clark and Lexi Hull and others about their tendency to have this lack of focus, because that is one of the things that Caitlin and Lexi immediately pointed out. Lexi was just about as real as you can get. She was like, you know what? It is easier and perhaps more of an easy thing to do to get up for a game when you have to pay for $30,000, a piece when they were in the Commissioner's Cup Championship, but then you get to these games that focus just isn't there, and that to me is more concerning than even the inconsistency in lineups. It's the inconsistency in focus, effort, discipline, things of that nature. And so when I followed up with Stephanie White and I said, hey, what has led to some of these inconsistencies? And she was saying, I got to figure it out. I don't know, which is, she said it's my job to figure out and to know the answer to that question. But the fact that we're, almost 20 games into the season and you don't know, that's a bad look.
What do you think they're more like, James? Are they more like what we saw in that Commissioner's Cup final in that win on the road against Minnesota, or are they more like that absolute 3-quarter disaster you had to witness earlier today at the Fieldhouse?
That's a very good question. I feel like I'm always a guy who is, as a writer, your best story is your latest one. Your worst story is your latest one. So I'll go with the latter on your question. Since that game is fresh in my mind, with that, effort and having Caitlin back in the lineup against the Golden State Valkyries team, which is a good team, by the way, but to look like that against them, I just feel like inconsistency at some point, man, is going to catch up to you. And I don't know how many games you can get up for. I think you can quickly fall to a certain level versus rising to it. So I'll pick the latter and say that they're this team that we see, which is the one that struggles.
It's James Boyd, the morning show, the Fan morning show, 7 until 10 a.m. weekday mornings here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. And writer extraordinaire from The Athletic. I'll switch some gears. Hopefully they look much better versus Atlanta. I'm curious, one more thing regarding the Fever. Does this at all throw cold water on the approaching WNBA All-Star game in which the Fever in Indianapolis are hosting?
No, I don't really think so. Obviously the team and Caitlin Clark would love to be playing a lot better. going into the break, and we'll look to stack some wins before that. But even regardless of what the season has looked like, I think she's such a big star that it just won't matter, man. I mean, you see the big poster they have of her on the side of the JW Marriott, and it's warranted. She is Tiger Woods. She is Michael Jordan. She is Taylor Swift when it comes to, pub and attention and celebrity. So I don't think it'll put a damper on things at all.
So James Boyd with us. All right, switch gears officially now. Pacers Summer League. With the roster that we have seen for the Vegas Summer League, most intriguing player among those participating for the Pacers out in Vegas. James, where do you start?
I'll probably go Taylor Peter, just because I feel like he is such a unique player. He wasn't, super high on a lot of people's draft boards, but Kevin Pritchard told us he was high on theirs, and he can shoot the ball really well. And in those types of settings where you have minimal time to practice, minimum time to really build an offense and build chemistry, I feel like the guys who can do the simple things well usually thrive. And so by simple things, I mean making shots. And that's one thing that he did a lot during his college career at Liberty. I mean, the guy shot an incredible rate from 3 and an incredible rate from 2 as well. And you don't see that kind of efficiency, I think, at the collegiate level. But obviously, I'm excited to see all the guys get out there. I mean, the crazy part to me, JMV, was hearing that Johnny Furphy is still the youngest Pacer.
Yeah.
That, to me, blew my mind.
Well, I mean, he looks the part. There's no doubt about that. I did want to bring that up with Furphy and Quentin Jackson, because let's just face it, we're going to be searching for what we believe are legitimate rotational pieces given the circumstances of this Pacer roster to start this season. What are you looking for from both? And you think, can either one in this case be legit rotational pieces this season for the Pacers?
Yeah, I love the way that Quentin Jackson approaches the game of basketball. I think that he is just a dog when it comes to effort, attention, energy. And I think the biggest thing for him will probably be shot making. How consistent can you be when it comes to just knocking down shots and keeping the defense honest, because his effort, his athleticism, all that stuff, to me, is off the charts. Now, when I look at, on the other hand, Johnny Furphy, he has all the physical gifts, and you can see why the Pacers took a swing on him with the traits. I mean, he's 6'8", he's bouncy, he can shoot it. And so if you can see more of those skills be pulled out of him and kind of become, more like, let's talk about potential and more about actual production, that could be a huge, swing and really a huge hit for the Pacers if he's able to come to fruition and really tap into his potential even more. So I think that Johnny Furphy is the guy I'm looking at the most because of the physical gifts. I mean, as much as I like Quentin Jackson, he's not going to be 6'8" tomorrow, but man, if you can get a 6'8" wing that can shoot it and be disruptive on defense, that those guys get paid a lot of money in this league, especially in today's NBA where everybody's switching, everybody's running, and you need those kind of tweener players.
I think about Quentin Jackson for there being, I think, some available clock for him if he's able to show consistency off the bench at the guard position. What do you think he needs to show to get that type of time, to actually get rotational minutes this season?
That's a very good question. Man, a lot of it probably will have to come down to defense and shot making. Now, he did. I'll give him credit. I don't want to make it seem like in the earlier session of this call that I was, getting on him for a shot making. He shot pretty well last year, 37% from 3, I believe, and about 50% from the field, just under, I think it was like 48% if you round up. But to me, it has to be defense. Can you be a dog on defense? Because you got enough guys that can fill it up, and you just don't know how many shots you're going to get in this offense. It could be, 8 shots one night. It could be 3 shots some other night. And so with Benedict Mathurin probably getting more time, with Jarris Walker getting more time, you want to make sure that you're bringing it on defense. That way, at the very least, they can say, well, this guy locks up. We can throw him in there to give you sort of that feel of being a pest, a bulldog. And then does your offense kind of get sparked from there?
So, James Boyd of the Fan Morning Show, 7 until 10 a.m. here on The Fan, and writer of The Athletic. So, I talked to Shaka Smart last week, the head coach of Marquette, about Cam Jones, his guard, and you and I had this conversation last week as well. Maybe it was after he was drafted into the second round. This all kind of fits, again, what the Pacers are about, and that is the team concept. I thought he was the ultimate team concept. as an older player at Marquette and what he brought to the table, and especially the stats across the board were all really good. What do you think, if anything, he can bring to the table in year number one? I'm not assuming there are going to be any expectations, but what might he be able to bring, knowing the circumstances of the Pacers going into this year?
Absolutely. Well, to start off, JMV, right after he got drafted, I believe he called Indianapolis Naptown. And I was like, this guy's already going to fit in. I mean, people don't call Indy Naptown outside of living here. So that was fitting. His Instagram bio already says yes, sirs, as I was checking it earlier today. And one of the things that we actually had Ben Steele on the morning show this morning, he covers Marquette basketball for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. And he was telling us that, the way that Cam is able to run an offense and the way he proved that this past season really could take his game to another level. So when you ask, hey, what can he bring to this team? I think in an ideal world, if he, hits his stride and hits the ground running, and obviously there's going to be rookie ups and downs, but if he's a hit as a pick, he will be another primary ball handler for them to sort of supplement some of the responsibilities when it comes to Andrew Nembhard, TJ McConnell, and others. And so he proved that he can be a floor general last year, one of the best in the country, obviously one of the best in the Big East. And so I think that is what they would like to see him tap more into.
All right, James, do you think that the nation of NBA fans on Christmas Day care enough for the NBA to put the Bucks and the Pacers in a matchup at the Field House? And we know that there's going to be no Halliburton, and I don't know what I have higher expectations, I think, than I'm sure everybody else might for this Pacer team this season. Might we get that matchup in a Miles Turner return, or because of the Halliburton injury, are we not going to see that in that moment, especially on a Christmas Day moment? And will we see a Christmas Day game in general for the Pacers because of that very issue?
I think once Ty went down in Game 7, that probably ended the Pacers' chances of getting the Christmas Day game. Now, the pettiness in me, JMV, would love to have that matchup. And honestly, if I'm making a pitch to the league, Adam Silver, listen up. I know you're a big fan of the show. Put them at 12 p.m. on Christmas. We're not asking for, 7 p.m. prime time. We're just asking for a little, animosity, a little pettiness, a little rivalry to kick off the holiday. And I think that would be a really good matchup. And I do agree with you, JMV, that they would be a, quote unquote, tough out or a tougher team than some might give them credit for going into next year without Tyrese Halliburton. But I still think on paper, this Bucks team isn't all that great. So I wouldn't expect some super lopsided performance. And I think, anytime you can get some, old relationships to overlap, old teammates, it creates for good drama, good TV. And, as I always say, sports is like the one place in the world where you can be a hater and genuinely hate some other person or some other team within the confines of the sport. And it's celebrated. It's good. And so I need more of that. Which
of the following teams, James, that I mentioned will not be better than the Pacers in 2025-2026? Are you ready? From the Eastern Conference. Yeah. Cavaliers, Celtics, Knicks, Bucks, Pistons, Magic, Heat.
Ooh. The only one on that list. Say it off again.
Cavaliers, Celtics, Knicks, Bucks, Pistons, Magic, Heat. I just kept with the Magic because of their changes and because I think they're going to be decent. I did not add the Hawks, even though it appears they're trying to go for it now, given the circumstances and the landscape of the Eastern Conference. Do you think the Cavaliers are going to be better, right? Do you think the Celtics are better than the Pacers this season?
Yeah, I think they are going to be better than the Pacers going into this season. Assuming Jaylen Brown is healthy, they should still have a pretty decent amount of talent. Derek White's still over there. Championship level coach. After they have a championship coach here in the Pacers as well. But even as I'm talking about it, I might take the Pacers over them because Jason Tatum is still a big loss.
It is.
So of that list, I would say the only teams that the Pacers would not be better than, or actually would be better than, to me would be they'd be better than the Celtics, they'd be better than the Heat. The other teams, I think, are locks to be better than them just because they have all their pieces.
Do you think the Bucks are a lock to be better than the Pacers this year?
I do think so. And I think a lot of that has to do with, one, they still have Giannis. And two, they weren't going to have an injured Damian Lillard coming into this season. Now they're able to offload him to bring in Miles. I know people are saying like Miles isn't going to be the same level or caliber player as Lillard, but he's a better player in theory because he's healthy, and that's the bottom line. Like, had they kept Lillard, he wasn't going to play this year most likely anyways. And so I think they're going to be better, and maybe it's a bit of addition by subtraction, but it won't be by much. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if those matchups are still, very close and tight contested games. And if the Pacers were able to beat them and, in some of those games, and also, match up in the playoffs and potentially knock them off. I don't think the Bucks are that scary to me, but I just trust that Giannis, him being available for his team, and then the Pacers losing their best player, that might be enough to even the playing field for the Bucks to slightly be better.
James Boyd, the Fan Morning Show, 7 until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, of course, and a writer for The Athletic. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Thanks for hopping on, man. We'll hoop it up again very soon, bro. Appreciate you.
Yeah, you back in action?
I'm back. I played last night. I was a little sore, so I dialed it down late, but I played 3 times now.
All right, hit me up, man. I'm ready.
You got, and I still wear the boot too. I wear the boot when I'm not playing.
I don't think you listen to any Dodgers orders ever, but you do you, brother.
I'm a little stubborn. My bad. So,
It happens. Gotta love of the game, man.
I'll let you know. Probably Sunday.
Sounds good.
It's James Boyd on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Bria Goss, top of the hour. Brooks Barnheiser of OKC coming up after 5. Sit tight. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
He looks like Rascal Flatts guy.
Got a cool soul patch.
He does, and a buttery smooth voice.
Oh, yeah.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Oh, crank this up. This sounds like Earth, Wind, and Fire, James. They'll sing this at Everwise on the 23rd. How about that horn section? Earth, Wind, and Fire brings the funk, James. July the 23rd, Everwise Amphitheater, downtown Indy. Number 9 at 239-1070 will go on us. I promise you will have an extraordinary time with Earth, Wind, and Fire. If you want to go, number 9 is going to go on me. And hell, maybe even with me, because I plan on going too. 239-1070, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Bria Goss, top of the hour. Brooks Barnheiser of Oklahoma City, a second-round selection out of Northwestern and Lafayette. Jeff, and 1 and 2 for OKC in the Salt Lake City Summer League. I actually watched. That was Craig Bowlerjack and Thurl Bailey. I actually like them both. They're the play-by-play and the color analyst, I believe, for the Utah Jazz. But if you watched those games in Salt Lake City, they were doing it. I always find it interesting, and I guess I shouldn't say anything because I go by JMV, but like everybody was a nickname or an initial from Craig Bowlerjack that was a part of the crew that he named off in that game last night. That was the end of the Thunder and the Jazz. Pretty good stuff. I always thought that Craig Bowlerjack sounded a little like Gary Bender. Remember, Gary Bender had how many years? 3? Did he have as the voice of the Final Four? 82, 83, and 84. Most notably, he was the voice of NC State in 83 and the Lorenzo Charles dunk putback. I always thought he sounded like Gary Bender. And, of course, Thurl Bailey was a part of that team, if you remember, NC State back in 1983. But, yeah, Summer League is going to be now in full effect beginning tomorrow in Las Vegas. Pacers get the Cavaliers. Now, we talked about that. And the Pacers, what to look for in the Summer League with James Boyd a little bit earlier in that podcast at 1075thefan.com. Yeah, I saw this. I think this was from yesterday. This is kind of amazing, I guess. In 1997, this is from yesterday. This is a baseball nugget. Craig Biggio played 162 games and did not ground into a double play. Now, I'm not the biggest stat guy in the world. That's an incredible stat right there. Craig Biggio. This is well done. All right, the disappointing Fever had a matinee and a loss in substantial fashion to the expansion team, Golden State, the Valkyries, 19 points better than the Fever. Bria Goss was on the call along with John Nolan a little bit earlier today here on The Fan, a part of the Fever Radio Network. The 2011 Miss Basketball out of Ben Davis is set to join us coming up on the other side. Bria Goss, Brooks Barnheiser, you and I at 239-1070, Dave Matthews Band tickets, and the sound of summer that's happening at the Indiana State Fairgrounds for the Indiana State Fair. Those ticket opportunities are also on the inbound. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Now you listen here. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Now go away.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
We have a lot of inconsistency. We raise to the occasion when we're playing for 30,000, and then we need to bring that level of focus and that level of energy every single day. It's really hard to win in this league, and we really need to regroup, turn the page, learn from this, and come with a better mindset on Friday.
Yeah, Lexi Hall, that was awful today, especially three quarters. 3 quarters offensively, turning over the basketball. Not good in that matinee loss to Golden State, the expansion Valkyries earlier today. By the way, Brooks Barnheiser, OKC, their second-round selections coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. But making her show debut, we are proud to have her, the 2011 Miss Basketball out of Ben Davis for the state of Indiana. And, of course, along with John Nolan, a part of the Fever Radio Network, and the call in which you hear right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Let's welcome in Bria Goss to the show. Hello, Bria. How are you?
Hi. That was a great introduction. Thank you so much.
Well, it took me like an hour and a half to write it out. I hope it was appropriate.
It was great. It was great.
Well, what wasn't great was the performance today. Let's start to where this team is. And I'll give you an example. And I know the return of Caitlin Clark, and we'll get into that in a second. But, I mean, you do go from a couple of games ago looking so impressive on the road to arguably the best team of the WNBA to looking like you haven't seen one another for the better part of 3 quarters against Golden State, an expansion team earlier today. So what gives, in your opinion, with this group right now?
A little inconsistent, especially for the games like today. I think kudos to Golden State as they just exposed so many weaknesses, not only on our offense, but our defense as well. So definitely a learning experience, even though we got the loss. Of course, we want to win, but these are the types of games where you got to dig really, really deep to see if you can pull some energy together and get your effort where it needs to be, and then hope that the shots will fall.
Is it fair to argue, though, with this group, with the expectations and then having Caitlin Clark back, I mean, shouldn't that approach be there every game? I mean, I would say, well, why do you have to dig? It's one of these odd matinee games, and everybody's excited. The pace is sold out, and you come out for 3 quarters, and it just looked like you've never played with one another. I think if you're having to look for that as we approach the All-Star break, you have some deeply rooted issues you have to iron out.
Well, maybe it's less of, having to dig deep to find energy. It's more so digging deep to find energy when shots aren't falling or like the game isn't in the pace that you want it to be. I know it's an early game, and I'm not trying to throw out excuses, but it being an unusual timed frame game, all these factors could kind of lead to maybe not as crisp or not as focused as they needed to be. Now, any game, when you approach the game, should be about the same, excited for the opportunity ahead, an opportunity to get better and grow closer as a team, an opportunity to, again, literally be better as a player. And that just was not there today. And as a former athlete, I know there's bad games, and that's just a part of the game, but it can't be everybody on the same platform not having or showing up in the same day.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you got today. Bria Goss of the radio network of the Fevers on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline with us. So what did you think about Caitlin Clark? Is she still dealing with obviously coming back? That was her first game back. She looked a lot like she did prior to going on the injured list, and you could kind of tell she was going through and trying to work through being dinged up there. It kind of looked the same to me today. How did it look to you?
Yeah. So just to extend grace, I know that might be something that might still be bothering her a little bit, if not physically, definitely that mental game of like not wanting to be hurt again. Her lungs got to get back to that same conditioning to where it was before she got hurt. Her shot was a little off, but shooters go through slumps all the time. So we need her to remain confident in who she is and in her game, and just know that she's been putting forth the right work ethic and has the right competitiveness to get things back on track. So I'm not really worried. I think it's going to be one of those breakout games to where she gets back to her normal self, but I'm not worried.
Is it the same game after game defensively, what teams throw at her? And I know there's a different level of a defensive talent individually, or I'm
Right.
sure collectively, that gets thrown at her. But is it kind of the same approach defensively, game in and game out against her?
Yeah, it's been working. It's been working. The physicality,
It
playing
has.
her before she gets the ball, and then as soon as she gets the ball, I mean, they're throwing traps at her. It doesn't look like there's a lot of room to really breathe. And again, the physicality, which she kind of struggled with a little bit last year as well, is there. So, and then I think the biggest thing is they're throwing multiple defenders at her, multiple bodies. That's extremely. I mean, back at the Davis days, we were all pretty much defensively minded, and so we could go out and literally give 100% on their best player, knowing good and well my teammate next to me is going to come and replace me and have the exact same intensity. So it's a hard thing to conquer, but I think she'll figure it out.
So I'll give you an example with the Pacers that happened to Halliburton, and then they Nimhard would bring it up and release some of that pressure. And I know that that's what they're doing with Ari McDonald. How much has that worked since she's been implemented as a part of this team? And will we see more of that, or is the Caitlin Clark that we know and we expect to see? Is it more with occupation of the basketball, and that's a situation she has to work through with the ball in her hand?
I think that's one of those the time would tell. I really think that she's going to be able to adapt. I mean, any all-star that comes into the league, and even I said this last year too. Last year I thought she was really, really good. And I said, give her a few years and she's going to be unstoppable. And, of course, we haven't got to a few years just yet, but this looks like a typical sophomore season where she has respect of other players. Other players are picking her up full court and playing with the intensity and the level of intensity that they have. As soon as she can figure out, look at Sabrina UNESCO, right? So she came in, and I know she had got hurt, but her numbers didn't start out to be what they are today right off the bat. And I think it's just that growth in that transitional period still.
It's Bria Goss of the radio network of The Fever on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So we all know this. This Fever team is going to be much better. The personnel will be much better playing off of her. But do you think she's in a situation right now to where it would be better for her to be able to play off of others, maybe more of a collective effort, and then have her play off and then kind of – because she does – I thought you brought this up, and you kind of said it without saying it. Her shot, there's zero confidence in that jumper right now.
Well, I think she should remain confident in who she is because she's done the work off the court. Her shot's not falling right now, but even Steph Curry goes through shooting slumps. And I don't think his confidence has wavered because of it. Now, it's not falling. Once it gets back to falling, of course, the confidence will then again rise. But I think she should still be able to remain confident in it. Now, playing off the ball, I like that idea. I think that's a great idea. I think that's what makes the Fever team so unique because you can have a player on the ball and be ball dominant and off the ball and come off more screens and things. And honestly, there's so many eyes on her. It's going to open up for pretty much the rest of the floor that's on the group too, or that's on the floor as well. But I don't know because I don't make the big bucks, so I don't know what Steph White has cooked up. But I think the versatility of that is more than what a lot of teams have.
You can please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong because this is a very misunderstood opinion right here. But when she is not shooting it well, it almost seems like at times her degree of difficulty in the shots she tries to make to get herself out of it become even larger. You know what I mean? It seems like her shots are even tougher when she's going through kind of a slump shooting situation right here. I always think, are there easier ways you can try to go out there and get yourself going outside of a step back 25-footer, for example? And it kind of just seems like her shots get tougher when things aren't going well with her jumper.
Yeah. So I think the kicker of that is she practices these shots. You know, like
right.
she has put in that work to do so. So yeah, you know, if she could get a wide open three, you know, once or twice a game, that would for sure help her. However, these are the shots that we all know and love, which made her who she is today. And so I don't think she should then go away from that either. Now, could she probably go to the basket a little bit more, or try to get to the free throw line a little bit more? Have that runner and that floater that she's been developing over the summer, use that, or over the off season a little more. I think that could all be beneficial. But I can't be the one to say she needs to stop doing the setback threes and only focus on this, that, the other. Take the shots that you know you can make, or that you practice really hard on. And as soon as you start feeling good and start getting those again, seeing those go through the net, then boy, they're gonna be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Bria Goss is going to go at somebody's chest to get going.
Oh,
Ben
yeah,
Davis back in the day.
every single time. And you know what? For me, I know, and I didn't shoot a ton of threes, especially not to Caitlin Clark's degree of difficulty. However, I know how I approach the game when I'm in a shooting slump. And I am focused up more on defense and the rebound and getting my teammates open, and then taking the open shots that are given to me, the right shots that are given to me. And once I start really zoning in on, the little things, and I feel better and I can control my energy effort, then it's kind of like the shots will come, I guess. That's me, though.
No, that makes a ton of sense. Bria Goss of the Fever Radio Networks on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So a game under 500. Give me a couple things just outside of what we talked about. Caitlin Clark getting going, not turning the basketball over. What other things can this team do to get going, especially Friday night against Atlanta?
Yeah, maybe getting Aaliyah Boston the ball a little bit more. We know she is a force to be reckoned with in the paint, and nobody can stop her, which that's why there's so many bodies in the paint. If we can get some inside-out game where we give it to it, maybe it's a pass out. If they don't come in trap, then she needs to score it herself. But if they do and send one or two bodies at her, somebody's going to be open. We just got to knock down the threes. Lexi Hull was pulled from the starting lineup today. That was 100% fine. I thought that was a good rotation because we had Arian McDonald. But the energy that she brings to the game was duly missed, especially when they were going on those runs. Sophie Cunningham, she's known as a three-point specialist. And so getting her going as well. Tosh Howard, just didn't have a lot of touches today. She came out of an MVP performance, and she didn't do that by sitting back. She went and attacked the ball and demanded the ball. And so just down the line, Kelsey Mitchell didn't have the normal game that she's been having. So just down the line, I think it was just one of those uncharacteristic, flawed games that was just super grimy to watch. But those are the ones that you don't want to feel how they probably feel right now. They're probably ready to go and play Atlanta because they want to get it off their mind. But it might be the thing that kind of tips the boat over and they all get on one accord.
Yeah, that's tough. You got to sit through the rest of this afternoon and all the way until Friday to try to redeem yourself from that. That's yeah.
When I was overseas playing, we only had one game a week.
Ooh.
So if we had this game, I would be sick. I wouldn't be able to sleep for days because it would just be. Just from an accountability standpoint, they don't have to sit in it, but it just doesn't feel good either. So I would have been anxious to get back out as well.
Bria, where'd you play overseas?
Oh man, so I was in Finland a couple years, Israel a couple years, Slovakia, Romania, Sweden a couple years, and then finished out in Poland.
What did you think about those Scandinavian countries? Did you like that, Finland and Sweden? Did you like it?
It was freezing, but. So the freezing part was like, you're negative, 10 degrees on average, that you can kind of get used to that. But I did not get used to, especially that first year in Finland, was the darkness. It was extremely dark, and it was very, very hard it was like I felt lazy, and I felt like I was tired and sleepy all the time, but it was such a great experience. I had teammates outside of the cold and the darkness. I really cannot complain. It wasn't. I wouldn't say the food was the best in Finland, but I started cooking a lot more, and so that helped me with those skills as well. So it was great.
I'm assuming you're glad you did. I have some friends that are still overseas and have played overseas, and I've always said this: you play basketball, especially getting paid to play basketball, as long as you possibly can. That has to be a great experience.
Oh man. It's literally the best. I mean, I have the best job in the world, and I literally get to travel the world and meet all these new people and experience different cultures and experience different foods and places and things just because I got really, really good at a sport. And I always tell, especially young people or people coming right out of college, go experience it. Have an open mind. You know, it's not America by any means. The food's gonna be different, but it's just opens you up for so many different possibilities. I mean, I saw some beautiful places and met some really cool people along the way. So I was sad when I was done, but it was almost 10 years of just pure excellence, and I loved the competition of it.
Yeah, that's fun. There's no doubt about that. Bria Goss joins us of the Fever Radio Network. Are you excited about the WNBA All-Star Weekend, which is quickly approaching here in Indy?
Oh, my goodness. I'm so excited. This is the first time I'll actually get to attend an All-Star. Usually I'm overseas or I'm in college or or they don't even have it here. So it means a lot to the city. We're family oriented. So I know there's going to be a lot of things for the kids and things. I'm really excited to get out in the community. I have a couple panels that I'm going to be a part of, just kind of doing my part, giving back to the game. And then there's an All-Star game that I'll be participating in too. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Well, I was going to ask you to rank yourself all-time Ben Davis greats. Where are you on the list?
I'm number one, baby.
There you
number
go.
One.
There you. That's what I was looking for.
So everybody else who has a problem with it, they can come see me. No, Glenn. No, it's such great company to be a part of. You know, just from like the Miss Basketball standpoint, specifically in Ben Davis and all the All-Stars that went through there. I got the opportunity to play with my sister, so that was a lifetime experience. Love that. And so I was just, it's just I'm just so blessed. Yeah.
Well, it is. It's just year after year after year. I always loved it because it Ben Davis, and I know this happens everywhere, but maybe it's just something I see from BD, is that you wouldn't necessarily have to be this incredible talent, coming out of junior high and going as a fresh, like all of a sudden at the tail end of a career, you have somebody that has, picked up their game to a point to where they're getting all this recognition that maybe was just kind of like everybody else as a freshman, meaning you get so much better as a part of whatever program is going on over there. That's always been an amazing aspect.
You really do. And I know the sisterhood that was able to be created, I mean, there was no jealousy. There was just I'm out here to get better and make my teammates better from all fronts. And that's exactly what we did. And so we won 81 in a row.
That's why you're number one right there.
Yeah.
Number one of all time. Hey, great job on the radio, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
We shall do this again, and hopefully we'll track you down prior to the WNBA All-Star Weekend. But, Bria, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Enjoy the rest of your day.
It's Bria Goss right there. You hear her as a part of the Fever Radio Network, along with John Nolan, Eddie Garrison right here on the Fan. In fact, you heard her earlier today in the Fever loss, which was not a good performance in the least. The Golden State Valkyries, final 80-61 in the return of Caitlin Clark. That is not one that you are going to put in the archives of greatness for the Fever at all. All right, 239-1070 is the number. Email address is jmv@1075thefan.com. AAA membership lounge via YouTube Live. My advice is for you to become a AAA member today. The perks are endless and all the stuff that you love to do in the summertime around here. Whether it's Ruoff for a show, Symphony on the Prairie for a picnic and a show, the Indians, oh yeah, and of course your summertime vacation road destinations. Somebody's got your support, your back. Matt and Matt have you. With your AAA membership, you get all those perks and more. Become a AAA member at AAA.com today. We'll take a break and come back. If you're on hold, I'll get to you. If you're not, it is time to yip yap at 239-1070. Brooks Barnheiser of OKC coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Not on the road this week, but a lot of stuff to give away, including Dave Matthews Band tickets coming up a little bit later on as well. And a lot more to get to. Pacers and the Summer League start coming up tomorrow against Cleveland. That's in Las Vegas. That and more for you, 239-1070. The stream, the app, it's HD Radio at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
JMV.
If somebody gets in your face and calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Afternoon baseball at MLB. Dodgers 2, Brewers 1, bottom of 7 in Milwaukee. White Sox 2, Blue Jays 1, end of 7 on Chicago's south side. The book on Colson Montgomery so far today, 0 for 3. The shortstop out of Southridge High School in Holland, Indiana. Got the call-up finally last week, but he has been swinging it a little bit, I believe. Let's see here. 333 is the average since he has been called up. I'm to see his last couple of games. See, the 0 for 2 on the 4th, I believe that was his call-up day, right? Last Friday. Saturday had 3 hits. Sunday, this is all against Colorado and Denver, 2 hits. An 0 for on Monday. And 1 hit yesterday. 2 wins versus Colorado, and then 3 losses versus Colorado, and 2 so far against the Blue Jays. White Sox up. There's your Colson Montgomery update. The pride of Southridge High School. And got his call up and has been playing quite well up until this point. All right, 239-1070 is that number. We promised some calls. We'll get to that. But first things first, James, 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan. Thrilled to host the Fan Invitational Golf Outing presented by Franciscan Health. That is Thursday, August the 7th. Tee time, 10 a.m., Legends Golf Club in Franklin. We are actively trying to work a basketball shooting hole or tee box for me to shoot some of you guys. Outshoot, I should say, some of you guys for prizes. So the Fan staff will be there, coming together as a community and support the Franciscan Foundation, making meaningful impact while enjoying a fantastic day of golf. Fun. It says camaraderie. Fun, camaraderie, and a chance to mingle. You ever mingled, James? I can't wait to mingle with you guys.
I've done some mingling.
I love mingling. So, yeah, come out. I don't know if I've ever mingled, but I will mingle at this event. So, hopefully, I can bring out some music, too. We can do a little JMV takeover out there. I promise you a great time. August the 7th, 1075thefan.com. Make sure you and your friends are a foursome so we can all mingle. Now, I will be much better at mingling for the first time once I get a couple of cocktails. I am definitely going to be a cocktail mingler.
That is always the secret sauce of mingling.
It is, buddy. 1075thefan.com. Yeah, be down there. Let's all hang out together and mingle. 239-1070 is that number. Brooks Barnheiser, friend of the show from Northwestern and Lafayette. Jeff, he's an OKC second rounder. OKC get the Pacers in the Summer League on Saturday. Brooks joins us at the top of the hour. Jerome is at 239-1070 right now. Jerome, it was great to meet you a couple of weeks ago in Broad Ripple.
Hey, man, it was a pleasure. I don't understand why my friend JMV keeps wearing those Giannis Greek Freak basketball shoes. You tore your Achilles with them, and guess what? Your favorite player, Miles Turner, is signing with the Greek Freak. If you don't throw them damn shoes in the trash can, you're bad luck, man.
I'm going back to the high tops, Jerome. And really, you're the one that talked me into it while I was limping around in that boot in Broad Ripple at OPTs a couple of weeks ago. But I am going back officially to the high tops.
I'm proud to hear that. I know that you're a little mad that, we don't have Miles back, but I just want to tell you this. I'll make a bet with you.
Okay.
Here's what's going to happen. James Wiseman and Isaiah Jackson are going to play so well this year, you're not going to miss Miles Turner other than maybe his three-point shooting. We got two young guys that are 6'11", 250-ish, that are freakishly athletic. And I said it again, had we had either one of those guys against OKC, we would have won that game. Also, keep in mind, this team is going to make the playoffs next year. We may not go to the finals, but I don't think we're going to be a play-in team. I think if you get another guard or another guy that can create a shot and help TJ and Nembhard, we're going to be okay. We got a lot of young guys that want to prove themselves, and I'm glad people are counting us out because I think if we can get one of these buyout market guys, maybe Marcus Smart, somebody could come in here, maybe a Chris Middleton, or I would take a flyer on Westbrook. Just somebody that can just help with the ball handling. We're going to be perfectly fine.
Listen, I have a belief in this core group the way that it is right now. And maybe it's misguided in a belief, but I agree with the team concept and those that are still here.
I tell you what's going to happen. Don't be surprised if Mathurin's going to be a 20-point scorer, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jarris Walker makes a gigantic jump. Those guys are chomping at the bit to show that, hey, we're not bust. We can play. And I'm telling you, Wiseman's going to show a lot. Man, Wiseman, had we had Wiseman or Isaiah Jackson in that series, people forget Isaiah Jackson manhandled Hartenstein in the New York series when he played last year. Those two guys would have accidentally got 6 rebounds. Accidentally.
And no doubt. Well, listen. I'm not so much worried. I know everybody wants to reflect on the whole rebounds. I was kind of more worried about the turnovers and the points off of turnovers, but that's just me. But no, well, I am not dismissing in the least this team and the opportunity, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of folks this season. So that's what I'm going with. Anything else, Jerome?
Yes. Would you take a flyer on Westbrook if he's available? Just
no,
to help
I wouldn't.
With the ball handling?
I don't. Not really. I'm okay.
Bradley Beal?
No, of course not.
I mean, you got to understand, these guys are $50 million players that you can get for the vet minimum. You wouldn't take a flyer on them? Just a flyer to see if they can help?
Why do you want a flyer on what would Westbrook do here?
Here's what he would do.
And Bill's been an absolute. That's like the worst things that's ever happened in Phoenix.
Well, you have to play the style of play that Westbrook plays. He goes up and down. That's why he was a horrible fit with the Lakers. But if you put him in our up and down system, he doesn't have to start. But I mean, we need another ball handler. He's going to rebound. He's going to attack the basket, and he's going to pass his ass off. And he's going to play with 100% emotion, and he's going to play hard. See, you need somebody that can handle the ball and set the table. That's what we got hurt with OKC. TJ's a hell of a ball handler, but he's not a starter. Nembhard's really an off the ball type guard. He's not a guy that's going to be a playmaker.
Jerome, isn't this like a situation though that you have to find out once guys don't end up doing, like you got a group of guys right now where you don't know how they're going to respond in certain situations going into this year. I mean, you're talking about moves I think that you would make if you have higher expectations and there is a certain position and a guy that's not getting it done. I just don't think we have the answers to those questions enough right now to do what you're suggesting they do.
Okay.
Am I right or wrong about that? I mean, don't they want to see what they have right now before you end up putting a roadblock in front of somebody like what you have? Whether I'm not talking about, maybe it's Cam Jones, maybe it's clockwise time. Maybe it's a guy like Mathurin. I mean, I just think there are a lot of things you have to know before you end up making a move. I wouldn't want Bradley Beal for nothing, but a move of that magnitude, I think you have to find out what you have before you do that. Don't you? Have to give some guys a chance?
Yeah, but
maybe that's more my expectation than there's anything else, and maybe that's not going to be their protocol. But I think that's going to be the path they take. I think they're going to find out what they have, and if they're better than what they think, what everybody else thinks, maybe you add something during the season. I just don't think they're going to do anything like that prior to the start of the season. I could be wrong, though.
All I know is we're going to have a playoff team next year, and you remember I said this, they will get past the second round. I'll tell you that.
I'm in agreement on my belief in this team. That's why I kind of want to see this group evolve a little bit together. And you and I both may be wrong with that assessment. And then, either either you're just not going to be as good and maybe they start making some deals for the future if they're not that good, or if they're better and you need one certain thing, that may be the tack they take with a veteran. I just sit here right now, Jerome, and I don't think they're going to take that path before the start of the season. There's too much of an unknown with a lot of things going in. Anything else?
That's it, my friend. Good luck on that foot, and take off them damn Giannis's.
You got that right, Jerome. You've taught me a lesson. No more low-top Giannis shoes. I do like the way they look, and they have been incredibly comfortable, though. Till the calf popped. I can't blame the shoe. I got to blame the body. I think my body's just faulty. Here's what happened, James. This is true. Like, I go out and I lose 80. So I'm starting to go harder and more and trying to be quicker. And the rest of my body's going, hey, wait a minute. You're still 55, numbnuts.
Do you do any stretching at all before you get out there?
I do the most half-ass protocol of stretching of all time.
Well,
Literally.
That might have something to do with it.
It is against the wall, half-ass stretching. Like, if there was a book out that said, hey, here's how you half-ass stretch against the wall before you go out and do anything, and this is the path you take to injury, that's it. That's exactly it.
I'd maybe start working in some toe touches or something along the line before you get out there.
I'll get against the wall or lean up. I'll do the back of the calf. Yeah, really nothing else. Pretty lame. I've always been that way. So I probably could have been a hell of a lot more athletic had I stretched, is what you're saying here.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm just like an ironing board with legs running up and down the floor. Bill's up next at 239-1070. Hello, Bill.
JMV, how are you doing today?
Bill, I can't believe we're not out this week, thus we are not getting together. That's a travesty.
It's a lonely and hopeless feeling, but I'm hoping that, I can rebound and everything, and we can finish the month off strong. But I want to weigh in on the Pacers a little bit. They've made a trade that I think is going to be pretty significant. They made a trade with the Memphis Grizzlies for that center Jay Huff, who has identical stats to Miles. He's a stretch five, and he shoots 40% from 3-point area, and that's third in the league as far as 7-footers go, and he can protect the rim. So, and his contract is good until the 27-28 season. So, what the Pacers have actually done is they've let Miles walk. They signed somebody that's more affordable, that has the exact same stats, and they're going to maintain their business model and everything of not going, not jumping into the cap or over the cap. So I'm anxious to see in the summer league, and the games start tomorrow. I think they're on NBA TV.
Yes.
Anxious to see if this guy is going to play, and I just don't have the confidence that everybody else has in Wiseman and Isaiah Jackson. I think the Achilles injuries and everything are just going to be a footnote.
No, I think that's fair. I think what you just said is fair. That's a fair assessment until you'll see it when you believe it.
Yeah, they got to, they have to have successful rehab has to happen or will have to happen, and we'll just see. So I think this Huff guy is going to be important for the Pacers. But I want to switch a little bit and mention that IU football is going to be starting up in about 6 weeks or so. The Indiana State game is a Friday evening game at Memorial Stadium. I think that's on September the 30th. So I think that's or August the 30th. So I think that's Labor Day weekend. So
did you say go Sycamores?
That's where the party's going to be.
You know where my weekend is. Labor Day weekend. It's the JMV takeover at Mystic Waters Campground in Pendleton. You know that? That Saturday night is me up there.
Oh, I'll be there. I remember that was a great time last year.
Oh, it's going to be spectacular. You're number 3.
That was a fantastic time.
Yeah, you're number 1. It was kind of a feeling out period, and I still don't know what the hell happened then. It was interesting. Year 2 was much better, and year 3 is going to be outstanding because year 3 is when we really evolve for the better, right? Correct.
Yeah, is that going to be that's going to be Saturday night, right?
It's a Saturday night, Labor Day weekend, the JMV takeover, Mystic Waters Campground. Me and Brent Halverson and all the requests that we can muster in a 6-hour-plus period at Mystic Waters Campground, right off the Pendleton exit off of I-69. It'd be great.
Well, man, I'll be there. I'll be there for sure.
Hey, by the way,
I'm sure
too,
the guys will be there as well.
Next week, Billy, Behringer's on Wednesday, near South Side, Meridian. Behringer's, awesome place. And O'Reilly's next week on a Friday.
There
Downtown.
we go. My schedule is now complete.
Now, that's Joel's place, too, not like O'Reilly Auto Parts, but O'Reilly's. O'Reilly's downtown. Going to be a blast, buddy.
Hey, I'll be there.
All right, Billy. Thank you very much. See,
Talk to you later.
Yeah, thank you. I would kind of get wondering about Wiseman and Jackson. I don't know if I put that much stock and or faith in Huff because do I believe that he can do some things? Yes. But I look at his stats, and I do often wonder if that's what he did and that's what they expected, then what happened to his clock? Especially late in the game in Memphis. They were searching for anything and everything. They got swept by OKC in round number 1 of the postseason. They were an absolute mess at the end of the year. Now, I know that they had a general manager and a head coach that hated one another, and the coach got bounced, and you have a team that's being led by John Morant, so good luck with that. And they made wholesale changes. But if he did that much, and that's what you expect now, why was he not utilized more? Was that just operator error in Memphis? Hopefully so. All right, Brooks Barnhizer, top of the hour. OKC second round selection out of Lafayette, Jeff, and Northwestern. And friend of this show joins us in about 15 minutes. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Oh, we're doing the sounds of summer right here. I believe this song with Sade has transitioned into a yacht rock category of the 1980s. James is queued up Smooth Operator. It is not Sade. However, at the Indiana State Fair, it is the sounds of summer. Number 9 at 239-1070. I want to give you the opportunity to go on us. Get a pair of tickets to the Sounds of Summer at the Indiana State Fair. Number 9 at 239-1070. Go to it right now, and we'll make you a winner. Which sounds good to me. The Sounds of Summer at the Indiana State Fair. The Indiana Fever were awful earlier today. They lose at home to expansion Golden State by 19. 9 points of the second quarter. That was kind of the start of the downfall. I think they went, 9, 19, and 10 in quarter scoring output for 3, and that's not going to get you any wins whatsoever. And it didn't. They get Atlanta coming up on Friday at the Fieldhouse. Incredibly disappointing, again, in the return of Caitlin Clark. 10 points for Caitlin Clark. A struggling offensive performance for her and her teammates. And, again, they look to try to get that back coming up on Friday against Atlanta. Bria Goss from the radio network of the Fever joined us a little bit earlier. The Miss Basketball from 2011 out of Ben Davis joined us to talk about that. And James Boyd, a variety of things, also a little bit early on the show for the Fan Morning Show. You can catch that on a podcast at 1075thefan.com. As I mentioned going to the break, the Pacers start their Summer League campaign tomorrow evening. That is against Cleveland in Las Vegas. Now, if you're looking ahead, you get the Pacers and the Thunder coming up on late Saturday afternoon. I think that's a 5:30 start in Vegas coming up on Saturday. Now, I know that you're watching the Pacers, Cam Jones, Taylor Peter, Furphy, Quentin Jackson, guys that you hope end up being rotational members of this team, which is going to be necessary. I get back to Jerome. I don't think the Pacers are going to make any major moves or signings or anything, deals like that, until really, I don't even know what would push them to do that. I don't know what you would have to find out now that you wouldn't give a try in this upcoming season without Tyrese Halliburton with a lot of these players that you have right now. So the Russell Westbrooks and the Bradley Beals, that doesn't make any sense to me. Finding out what you have right now on this team with this roster would. And a part of that is going to be the Summer League. And they start coming up tomorrow against Cleveland. They get OKC coming up on Saturday. And from OKC, the second rounder, Lafayette Jeff and Northwestern, and a friend of the show, Brooks Barnheiser, is set to join us coming up on the other side. Don't go anywhere. The stream, the app, it's HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Thank you for joining us today, Bria Goss. The Fever Radio Network. Fever didn't play well at all today, losing to Golden State. Bria talked a little bit about that a little bit earlier. Podcast 1075thefan.com. James Boyd of The Athletic also a little bit earlier. I will say, Chad Buchanan, I don't know about tomorrow, but I think on Friday he said on Monday he wanted to come on at the end of the week. And I'll be damned, as we approach Friday, this is going to be the end of the week. So I believe Chad Buchanan, Pacers GM, coming up on Friday. We'll see. It can't be Monday because I'm out. It can't be Tuesday because I'm out. So it damn straight better be Friday, Chad Buchanan. In Vegas, as they get started with Summer League play. That is tomorrow against Cleveland. They get OKC coming up on Saturday late afternoon at 5:30. OKC is a part of the Vegas Summer League, too. They've also been a part of the Salt Lake City Summer League in 3 games, 1 and 2. And hopefully you watched, and if you did, you saw a friend of the show, former Lafayette Jeff standout, former Northwestern standout, and second-round selection by the Oklahoma City Thunder, Brooks Barnhizer, who's kind enough to join us now on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hey, Brooks, thank you for the time. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, appreciate you having me on again.
I am as excited as anybody out there to watch you play. I kind of knew what was going to go down just a little bit from what I had heard in the draft. We'll get to that part in a second. How have you acclimated as quickly as you have? Because it looks like that this team and your teammates, it's something that's kind of fluid, I would think, but it looks like so far it really fits what you're doing in this Summer League play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I think I talked about this a little bit, but it's just kind of like a match made in heaven for me to land here. And, the kind of guys, we got a couple guys, that, played NBA Finals minutes, 3 weeks ago that, a guy in AJ Mitchell is, playing with us right now in Summer League. So it's been really cool to just try to follow, him and Nikola Topic's lead, and then, just try to do what I do and, try to, contribute to winning as much as I can. So it's been a lot of fun and, just trying to get better every day and stack every day. He is
Brooks Barnheiser, Oklahoma City. We got an interesting matchup coming up on Saturday. We'll get into that in a minute. We don't want to skip too far ahead. But to me, I'm curious about how you do try to weave yourself into this group, especially those that have already played on that level. And I would guess with you, it can be relatively simple because you play hard, and no matter where you're playing, you're going to fit. And it always starts with that with you. Is that like the first step as far as the next level for you, is just making sure that you play hard and then you fit in with the rest of the group?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that another great thing too that is going to be really good for me is just looking at guys and how they've kind of how it's worked out for guys like Lou Dort and Caruso, and just kind of going in and kind of doing the little things and being kind of a master at that and just playing hard defense and contributing to like winning in the little ways. Really, it's just kind of what I'm trying to do every day. And it's cool that I can kind of start it at the Summer League level and kind of get a baseline from our coaches and, our front office of, kind of like a development plan and, get a baseline of, where I started off and then just continue to grow as the summer goes on and, we get into training camp and things like that. But, yeah, it's been a lot of fun just to be here and competing with these guys.
Well, it's fun for you because you love the game of basketball, which we all admire a great deal because you can see that love within every moment you're on the floor. And I do want to get back to that point before we move forward here at Northwestern when you were going to be really kicking and screaming, taken from the floor injury-wise in the fashion in which you were this past year, your final year in Evanston. How difficult was that to deal with, especially initially for you?
Yeah, man, I'm not gonna lie, it was probably one of the worst, kind of hardest things I've had to go through, kind of being able to, getting your senior year kind of taken from you, from injury, was definitely really hard. And, I didn't really wanted to get back to 3 tournaments. That would have been really cool if I could go to 3 tournaments in 3 years with Northwestern and, really try to, solidify the program that we have. And, I think we already did that. Our program has grown so much. And, a big thing for me as soon as I kind of got hurt and, I kind of got sidelined was just trying to help the guys on the court. But then also, the conversations with me and the coaches were like, okay, like, get healthy and then, go show people that you can make it from here. So that, like kids will believe that, you can go to Northwestern, develop and, be whatever you want to be as long as you put the work in. So, that was a really cool conversation to have. But yeah, it was very hard, but, I'm a big believer in God, and I feel like, that he has a plan for you, and, it just made it all, this last, 2 weeks, that much sweeter to know that, like hard work does pay off, and you got to go through some, lumps and bruises to, get where you want to go in life. But, it's really just the start. So I feel like it's a really cool kind of, celebrate the moment as it is right now. But, you wake up the next day and, there's work to be done. So I'm really excited to get started on that journey.
It's a Brooks Barnheiser with us. What I think is cool is you have perfect parents for the dynamic in which you just explained to, because I'm sure you're going to get that nurturing, and your mom's hardcore too, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I mean, you're going to get that nurturing there. But I'm assuming that your dad is one to say, all right, you know what, that just happened, but now it's time to move on, turn the page and move forward. That's a dynamic that's probably necessary in the circumstances in which you went through to close out your career at Northwestern.
Right, yeah, absolutely. It was funny, like, the first thing that he said, and you know how my dad is, like, the first thing when I went to the Thunder, he was like, man, their team doctor played for me, Donnie Strack. And I was like, man, this dude's coached everybody in the world. So it was just so funny that was, I mean, don't get me wrong, he was, like, ecstatic and super thrilled. But, like, the first thing, like, after, congratulating me and, like, celebrating it like, with everybody for, like a couple minutes was like, man, like you got a guy out there that I know, Donnie Strack played for me at Perry, and I was like, man, who haven't you coached?
Well, I think we kind of whipped his ass a little bit too at Perry Meridian. So hope he does. Hope he does. And I hope he was a ball boy for the Pacers when he was in high school.
He was Reggie Miller's guy, so it was just really cool. It was a really cool moment. But I mean, that's the thing that I think I've really been blessed with, is just the foundation I grew up with. And my dad and mom always keep it real, and like it was a really cool moment. But the reality is, like, it's hard to stick, and it's hard to be in this league as it is. But then to be in here, to be a tenured player in this league, so I know what it's going to take, and I'm just really excited to just give it my all every day. So I'm just taking it day by day. But it's been a really cool experience so far.
Your dad's been my blueprint forever, because he never stops moving. Never, ever, and he's never going to stop moving.
And
ever.
He won't.
Yeah, and I think that's a testament to what you described. Have you coached everybody? Well, he probably has coached everybody because he's that good at what he does, and that accomplished to what he does. And I've always had and he's what you well know, a deeply rooted admiration, as we all have, for what he has done. And now he gets to see you, take that to the next level, which has to be incredibly special for both your dad and your mom in this case.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was kind of cool that you mentioned that, because, like, I think everywhere my dad has been, he's really uplifted everywhere he's gone. And, it's just really been cool to, kind of have that and him be like a role model in my life, to just know that, wherever I step foot in, always trying to leave it better than when I found it.
Yeah.
And it was cool. Andre actually came to, my dad had a summer league game. Actually, the Thursday, the day I got drafted, they played at Greenwood. And Andre came and saw the team and was talking to him, and, like, to have a public high school coach in Indiana, have like, now like two guys, be able to play basketball at the highest form, from him, me and Andre, but then also just like of all the countless kids that, he's, been able to get to college and, be able to go to school for free, been a role model in their lives. Like, it's just been so cool to just, sit back and have that, I get to, call him my dad, but, like you said, like, he's just been a great influence, and, I'm blessed to have him as my foundation of basketball.
And imprint wherever he goes. And, it's tossed around the term culture, and that's the first thing that he has done. He deeply rooted culture is built. He knows what's going on from, the early stages of kindergarten in basketball all the way through to the team that he is coaching. And not many did that at that point in time when he started doing that, and that's something else that you have to have a great deal of admiration for, because, I mean, there's nobody that works as hard, and you've seen it both on the floor and off the floor, than he does coaching up and developing a product.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing, that it was even cool, like, when I was growing up, like, I forget how old we were when we were going to your guys' open gyms and that, like, bag gym at Perry, but, like just, like, the fact that he was playing, with the high school kids in the morning, and then, like, on the weekends he was playing with you guys, and then, always coaching 2-a-days. Like, man, he just loves the game. That's the one thing that was so funny. Like, I thought that, when I was graduating high school, he would be done, and I, like, looked at him, like, when I was at Northwestern, and I was like, Dad, like, like, you're not going to be done for a while, are you? And he was like, man, I don't know. Like, I feel like I always think about it. And then I'm like, what else would I do?
Yeah.
Like, he was like, I would just be bored. Like, I love the game. And, I love helping these kids out. And, I love being around the game of basketball in any facet he can be. So, man, I don't know how long he'll do it, but, I hope it's a while, because I think that his impact on the world and that community in Lafayette is too good to, not keep going. But, it's really cool to just, have him as my dad.
Yeah, there's no doubt. That's Brooks Barnheiser of Oklahoma City. The Thunder play coming up tomorrow in Las Vegas to start out their summer league schedule, and then we'll get to what's going to happen coming up on Saturday in a moment, too. But I was thinking about this in closing a chapter here with your dad in this conversation. Was it kicking and screaming for him to get in front of the camera and do the thing with Dusty May on Big Ten Network, the journey with Dusty? Because I will say this. I thought he looked comfortable as hell, but I also thought there's no way in the world he wanted to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the funny thing. Like, my dad, like in the new age of, like, social media and, like, coverage and everything, it's like it's so new to him because he's so old school. So, like, I think he's a lot more comfortable now, but I think he was more comfortable because, like, of how highly he thinks of Dusty and how proud he is of what Dusty's done, and kind of, how proud, he is of, my career up to this point. Like, I think it was a little easier for him to do it, but I know deep down he wanted no parts of that. He probably just wanted to be home, like, or in a gym somewhere, just, like, watching it on TV. But it's kind of really cool to see his progression, as kind of like a dad, but as well as just like almost like a father figure, not even a father figure, but just like a proud, male figure in Dusty's life too, to just kind of see that kind of grow. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun to just kind of see him progress in those aspects.
I wish we had video of the era in which you have not seen, because you've heard the legendary stories. They were even more awesome when you were a part of it. Let me tell you that.
For sure. Absolutely.
It's Brooks Barnheiser with us. So you knew where you were going in OKC, did you not, before the second night of the draft?
I did not actually. Like I had a really good. I feel like I had a good pre-draft process, and I finally got fully back healthy, and I didn't really know where I was going up to that point. But whenever I found out, like a couple picks before, and I was ecstatic because like this was my first pre-draft workout that I had in my I did about 16 of them in about like a month, because I got cleared like May 22nd or like May 15th. I got cleared. So I had to fit a lot of them in, but this place is just special with the way it's run, just kind of the personable, the like family aspect, and like you even hit on it earlier, like the culture, like that's just so huge, and I'm just very, very thrilled to be in this organization and just trying to push the envelope every day and help us in any way I can and any way I'm told.
What did Sam Presti tell you, if anything, or those around on his staff? Because it seemed like they certainly had you targeted for a while. It seemed that way, at least.
Yeah. I think he actually shared the story at our press conference, but he actually came to, I forget what game it was, but he came to Northwestern game my junior year, and he wasn't there to watch me, but I had a really good game, and we needed that game to go to the tournament, and we won it. And I think ever since then, he just really appreciated the way I played the game, and just understands that, kind of with the team that, we have with the Thunder, like, I can really try to, and I've talked about it earlier, but like you see a lot of guys that were second round picks, undrafted, that now, have really good roles. And you look at guys like Caruso and Dort, and, even to guys like Aaron Wiggins and, things like that nature where, they're just, they've grown so much here. And, I think that, that's a trajectory that, I would love to be, cut from that same cloth. And, it's going to be a really cool experience to, finish out summer league, push the envelope here. But then, when I get, back on in training camp, like near September, or late August, whenever that is, to just really start that journey. So I'm really excited for it.
It's Brooks Barnheiser with us. You get started. You're in Salt Lake City right now. You're going to move over to Vegas and get started coming up tomorrow, I believe, correct? And then
yes, sir.
We'll hard target Brooks Saturday just a little bit here, because that's a matchup that your summer league team has with the Pacers. How's that going to feel? I mean, I'm sure all this is somewhat getting used to, surreal for you in general, but, especially the Pacers on a Saturday and knowing what took place this past season in the NBA Finals. How's that going to feel come Saturday night?
Yeah, it'd be a really cool moment. I don't think it's any, secret that, my brother is, one of the biggest Pacer fans in the world. So, like, it'll be cool to just kind of, play against a team that, I grew up kind of always watching. And, you like, look at the guys like Reggie and stuff like that. And although it is summer league, it'll be really cool to just kind of, get out there. And I would say it's, like, very similar feelings of, like, whenever I'll come home and play, like, against IU or Purdue, like, just knowing that, a lot of people, that I grew up around really love these teams. And, now I get to share the court with, the teams that, I kind of grew up, being around. So it'll be a really cool experience.
What's legacy mean to you? Because in closing here, I brought this up. You're a Lafayette Jeff and just carved out a terrific legacy. We were talking about as a coach, your dad's legacy as well. What does that mean to you, not just at Lafayette Jeff, but what you went through and how you raised the bar with the basketball program, along with your head coach, in this case, Chris Collins, and really his father, who I know Doug was around the program a great deal. What's that legacy with both of those programs, high school and collegiately, mean to you?
Yeah, it means the world to me. I think that my family is really fortunate to kind of, have been able to move to Lafayette like during my sophomore year, because like that's really become home for us. And, Lafayette Jeff has been so good to us. And, I love that I can, I don't really know, if I'm the first, kid. I think I'm the first kid from Lafayette to, be able to play at this level. But to just kind of, really try to, pump basketball back in that community and really trying to just, show kids and, in Lafayette that, if you can go play for my dad and, go to Lafayette Jeff and, you can really push the envelope there because of, one, how much, that city cares about basketball, but two, just like, Indiana high school basketball is so, so special. And I love that, that's really the only state where you kids can go to public school and really, like really take pride in it. A lot of kids are going to private schools and now things of that nature. And, it's just kind of cool to, show that you can go to a public school and still play basketball at the highest form someday. So it's really cool to just push the envelope for, Indiana basketball, Indiana public high school basketball itself. But then also, like you said, like for Northwestern, it's been, I would say it's honestly one of the best, accomplishments of my life to just, really push the envelope there as well and get us back to, 2 tournaments and, my 4-year time there. And, being around Doug Collins and Chris has really just elevated me, not only as a player, but as a person. And it's funny, like they both text me after every summer league game I play and, kind of give me feedback and, say how proud they are of me and, how cool the, Northwestern family has been to me. It's just been, amazing. So hopefully they can, keep it going, and I'm going to do all I can to, put on for us at this level. But, hopefully show, kids that you can go to Northwestern and make it. You don't have to go to, every, cream of the crop, blue blood school and, kind of, go that route or whatever. You can make it from wherever. You just have to, put in the work and, believe in God and, let his path, run its course. So it's meant a lot to me, and hopefully I can just keep going and keep putting on for both of those aspects in Indiana, public high school basketball and Northwestern.
It's cool to be able to lean on Doug Collins. I mean, Chris as well, your head coach, but having Doug Collins around the program, I've always been a big fan of his. That's got to be incredible for you.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the best. Like, to be able to get feedback from somebody who coached the best player, to ever walk the earth, and Michael Jordan, and you always are going to listen, and how good of a player, not only how good of a coach he was, but how good of a player. 4-time All-Star, #1 pick out of Illinois State, like. There's only good that can come out of, spending time with him and sitting down. And I actually went out to see him in Arizona when our season was over and I was rehabbing to get in some good weather. And, he was just so cool because, he had a lot of injury things as well. And, he was just kind of telling me, like, hey, when you get back, like, you're going to be your best self. And I can't wait for you to, like, go do that and go do that for us. So, that family's amazing. And, I owe them a lot. And, it's kind of cool that, now in this next aspect, they can be, like whenever his Chris Collins' son, Ryan, is actually one of my best friends. And like, he'll be a groomsman in my wedding. I'll be one of his. So like, we're really family. So it's so cool to, just kind of, be that close with, somebody that, coached me and, Doug Collins as well.
It's Brooks Barnheiser with Summer League play for Oklahoma City, by the way, a second-round selection by OKC. It starts tomorrow for the Thunder, and then they play the Pacers in their Summer League venture coming up on Saturday. That's all going down in Las Vegas. It is Brooks Barnheiser out of Northwestern and Lafayette Jeff on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Please tell your dad and your mom and your brother we all said hello, and know that last night we're playing hoop and we go home and watch you, but we also talk you up while we're playing hoop. Me and Darmelio and Ray. So we're always thinking about the Barnhizer family down here. Never-ending thoughts about the Barnhizer family down here, even when we're hooping. Still,
man, that's love. I appreciate you. And I don't think your guys' support is always something, man. Like and my dad, he always those glory day stories are some of my favorite stories to even hear. So no, it's all love, and I appreciate you for having me on. And
you got it.
Tell the same to your family as well.
We'll do it again very soon, and keep doing what you're doing, Brooks. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you.
It's Brooks Barnheiser on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. One of my favorite kids of all time. My favorite coach of all time being his dad, Mark Barnhizer. I could sit here and share stories, some of which would not be ready for prime time on the air, absolutely for days. But I talk about my love of basketball here on just the smallest, the slightest of levels. There is nobody, and you look at Brooks and how hard he plays. I mean, you saw in the IU game the whole falling on your face on a dunk and still going out there and playing when they said go sit down. I mean, Brooks is incredibly hardcore, but there is nobody as hardcore as his dad with basketball. And so many people, including the conversation we had about Dusty May, the head coach of Michigan, all learned and take pieces away with what they do from those experiences with Mark. And it's cool to see Brooks, who has worked so hard and really honed that craft at Lafayette, Jeff, and at Northwestern, get this opportunity with OKC. Brooks Barnheiser on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We shall take a break. We will come back. Do not go anywhere. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
With JMV.
Hans, Bobby, I'm your white knight.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Brooks Barnheiser podcast, 1075thefan.com. I really enjoyed that conversation. Hope you did as well. Afternoon baseball, final and 10. Brewers 3, Dodgers 2 in Milwaukee. 2-1, White Sox over the Blue Jays. That is a final. Rained out. Orioles and Mets in Baltimore. Games this afternoon ongoing. Top of 2, Rays 2, Tigers nothing. Man, Detroit to this point of the season having a phenomenal year. Dominating the AL Central, 59-34 are the Tigers. Top of 7, Phillies 4, Giants nothing. Giants win on a walk-off runoff. I guess a runoff inside the park home run. That was pretty awesome. Last night, top of 7, maybe the good fortune has fallen upon the wayside. Phil's 4, Giants nothing. The Reds, you talk about the Fever being a disaster today and losing to Golden State earlier this afternoon here on the Fan, as you heard it. Absolute mess. The Reds are a mess. 7-1 and bound for the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. The southpaw that looks like Jerry Royce, Andrew Abbott, gets the ball tonight. Reds and the Marlins. I think the Marlins have won like 9,000 straight on the road. And last night was terrible for the Reds. Cubs and Twins, 7:40 later on tonight. 7:45 for the Nationals and the Cardinals in St. Louis. Meantime, this reminder for you. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Fan Invitational Golf Outing presented by Franciscan Health, Thursday, August the 7th. Tee time, 10 a.m. Who's going? Who has yet to sign up but has every intention upon being a part of it? Get you and your friends and the foursome going, because it says right here we're going to mingle. And I am going to mingle. I'm assuming I'm doing my show there live too. Am I doing the show?
I think so.
I'm playing music. Hopefully I'm shooting some jumpers against you guys. But I know Jeff's going to be there. Bowen's going to be there. Query's going to be there. And it's all for an incredible cause. The support of the Franciscan Foundation making meaningful impact while we all enjoy a fantastic day on the course together. Legends in Franklin. Shout out to Ted Bishop. It is an awesome place. You got to get signed up. Actually, a friend of mine, Matt, I play hoop with on Sunday morning, said, "Hey, are you guys sold out?" And I said, "No, I'm still doing the reads right here. So sign up and let's go. Get your foursome and let's get going." Thursday, August the 7th, 1075thefan.com is where you go and sign up right now. If you've never mingled, this is going to be my first time. Now, I'll drink a little bit. I'm sure mingle a lot better. My first time in really concentrating on mingling. I like hang out. I can hang. I've just never really done the mingling, but mingling is it. Can't wait. So get signed up today, 1075thefan.com. It is the Fan Invitational Golf Outing presented by Franciscan Health. Thursday, August the 7th. One more time, 1075thefan.com. Sign up right now. You let me know, too. You don't necessarily, I guess this is kind of like RSVPing, but let me know when you sign up, because I want to know who's going and who I'm going to mingle with. Shane writes this: "Will you be in Las Vegas for the NBA Summer League, JMV?" I will not. I'm going to be in studio like today, tomorrow, and Friday. And then the JMV Takeover, B105.7 on Saturday. And then Paradise Day Watson for backyard poolside drinking on Sunday. But I'll be watching. I'll be paying attention. Pacers and Cavaliers coming up tomorrow. Pacers and the Thunder and Brooks Barnheiser, who was just on the show, coming up on Saturday. So we'll be watching. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. You know, part of the the fun about Summer League, and yeah, I don't know if it's fun because it's never going to be fun without Tyrese Halliburton. But I guess part of the enjoyment is kind of wondering what guys can step up and be true, and I mean real rotational pieces for the Pacers. Like we're just talking about, sliding guys in like the pivot by committee with Jay Huff and Isaiah Jackson and James Wiseman, Zoni Bradley. Who's going to step up? Andrew Nembhard in for Tyrese Halliburton, who's going to be gone for the season. Benedict Mathurin, assuming sliding into the starting lineup. Who else can step up? We talk about Jarris Walker, how the bench is going to look, how they might close games. Will they go small as they did so many times a year ago, and even in the postseason, and certainly in game number 7, going small with Obi Toppin. But it's also about guys like Quentin Jackson and Johnny Furphy and Cam Jones and Talon Peter. I'm not trying to leave anybody else out of the equation here, but how these guys may be able to play to find a path of production for rotational minutes. Jerome called a little bit earlier and said, hey, what about Russell Westbrook? What about Bradley Beal? And I said, nope. And the big reason why, I'm not suggesting the guys I just mentioned, outside of Mathurin, outside of Nembhard, obviously, but the guys that you don't know a lot about and how they make the transition, hopefully, for significant rotational minutes here with what the Pacers are going to go through next year. The reason why I'm not suggesting at all that would be a point of interest with any really veteran player right now is because they don't know what they have. You think you know what you have. And that's why Jerome called and said Westbrook and Beal. I don't want either one. But I want to see what these guys can and cannot do. And while this is not going to be a simple translation to that form when it comes to the NBA regular season, it can be an appetizer and or a precursor to find out a little bit more. What you like, what you don't like. Or maybe it does kind of evolve a little bit more into an expectation, a belief. I don't know if any questions are going to be answered whatsoever in the Vegas Summer League, but you see it evolving and translating certainly a little bit more than just a guessing game right now. So maybe more interesting than we can remember it being this year, considering the Pacer circumstances. All right, 239-1070. We'll close out this portion of the show with your calls coming up on the other side. Get you set for tomorrow. Brooks Barnheiser, Bria Goss, and James Boyd. Podcast at 1075thefan.com. I mentioned, too, a little bit earlier, expectation is because he said at the end of the week, and we are approaching now the end of the week, Pacers general manager Chad Buchanan will join us, and we'll go over a lot of some of the dialogue and conversation we've been through for the past now week and a half with Chad, probably on Friday live from Vegas and that Vegas Summer League. All right, quick break. We'll come back at 239-1070. Right now, somebody's going to win 50 in betting, 50 in dining, courtesy of Harrah's Hoosier Park Racing at Casino in Anderson. We do it 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday. It is are you ready? The Harrah's Hoosier Park Race of the Day. Now.
The Ride with JMV.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, who wants to go see Dave? The Dave Matthews Band. They go back-to-back. Coming up this weekend at Ruoff Music Center. What a great time, by the way, too, to become a AAA member for all the perks as a part of that, right? As I've told you, Premier Lounge is so awesome. I promise you're going to love it. And I also have looked, while there are, it appears, for the Friday and Saturday shows, some tickets remaining. It like is down. It is down with like less than 100. 1%. So you may want to work really hard the rest of the week to try to win them here. Friday and Saturday, I don't know what show, what day these tickets are for right here, but Friday and Saturday, it is the annual Dave Matthews Band back-to-back at Ruoff Music Center. So Friday night and Saturday night, and number 9 at 239-1070 right now is going to go see the Dave Matthews Band on us, and we'll have more tickets for you both tomorrow. And I'm assuming we may not have them on Friday, though, because that's day of show unless we're giving them away for Saturday. I don't know how that's going to work. At the very least, we'll have them again for you tomorrow. Dave Matthews Band. Number 9 at 239-1070. You are a winner. The Harris Hoosier Park race of the day. Speaking of a winner, Bradley Holt is your winner, the winning horse. Good as you. It was not Floozy. A lot of you are going for Floozy. It was not Floozy. Good as you, the winner. Paid out $2.20 on a $2 bet. $2 exact. It was $4.60. The 50-cent trifecta, $5.70. That would be your Harris Hoosier Park race of the day. And Bradley Holt wins 50 in betting and 50 in dining. Courtesy of Harris Hoosier Park Racing and Casino at Anderson. With racing going on up there through November, your Harris Hoosier Park race of the day right here, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday after 5 on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan, we shall do that again tomorrow. Made a lot of just the major disappointment that the Fever were today. You had that annual matinee that's always exciting, always a lot of kids there screaming and yelling, and there was really zero to scream and yell about today outside of the first quarter. The Fever outplayed for basically the better part of 3+ if you want to count the very end of the first quarter. 23 points. They really started out the game looking good. Got out to a 9-point lead, and then something went a bit haywire toward the end of the first quarter, and then it was a mess offensively. 9 points scored in the second quarter, 19 in the third, and 10 in the fourth. And the Fever were left looking for answers to what was really a round defeat, I should say in this case, by the Valkyries of Golden State, an expansion team that would have been playing, I think, San Francisco time, this game at 9 a.m. And Golden State, a 19-point win. The Fever put up 61. And actually give up, if we want to look at it defensively, give up 20+ in 3 or 4 quarters. It was not good. Caitlin Clark, it was her return. 4 of 12, 2 of 5 from distance, 10 points. And if you want to look for anybody offensively, nobody did much of anything. Kelsey Mitchell had 12. Michaela Timpson, I think, had 10 off the bench. Lexi Hull didn't do, really across the board. Aaliyah Boston had 6 points on 2 of 8 shooting. I mentioned that Kelsey Mitchell had 12. She was 3 of 13. So here are the Fever shooting percentages, right? This is what leads to a 61-point performance. They were 31% from the floor, 22%. That is a 6 of 27 clip from three-point range. That will win you absolutely nothing. Yeah, it was a mess, to say the least. Fever back at it against Atlanta. That's coming up on Friday night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. We are slowly but surely approaching the WNBA All-Star Weekend, which will have an influence down there too, right? At O'Reilly's downtown on that Friday. Leading up to it, myself and Brent Halverson, Joel, the owner of O'Reilly's, will all be present and accounted for. And actually, next week, twice we're out. We're out that Friday at O'Reilly's, which should be an absolute blast. And then Behringer's, once again, if you go back to April, we were at Behringer's on South Meridian back in the month of April, and we'll do it again. Chris Hagan came down with me on that afternoon in April. Very warm afternoon, if I remember correctly. But I loved that place. It's a tradition on the near south side of downtown. We are back at Behringer's coming up on Wednesday of next week. So Wednesday at Behringer's on South Meridian, and then on Friday we'll be at O'Reilly's. So we're going to start really getting into it because we're approaching the Colts and training camp up at Grant Park. So lots of opportunities we're going to be out. And, hey, before you know it, our Larceny Bourbon Locks and Luna Azul Tequila Shots will start all over again with Brent Halverson every Thursday on the road. And then Bud Light Blue Fridays will start again, too, coming up every Friday as we get into it. So we are not too far away. When you start seeing all the back-to-school advertisements out there, we are not too far away from getting started on a little bit of everything here. And it all starts one more time for you. This week, by the way, we are in studio the remainder of the week for you. JMV Takeover coming up on Saturday, by the way, as well. Really had fun with Brooks Barnheiser. If you missed that conversation, I have known his dad forever, the better part of 3 decades. His dad, Mark Barnhizer, the head coach of Lafayette Jeff. And Brooks, Northwestern, and Lafayette Jeff got the opportunity. Sam Presti told a story about him that Brooks relayed to us in our conversation earlier this hour. If you missed any of that, how he ended up with Oklahoma City and what he has done so far here in the Summer League. They played in Salt Lake City in 3 games prior to getting started tomorrow in Las Vegas, much like the Pacers. But if you want to hear his story of how he ended up in OKC, his relationship with Northwestern head coach, not just Chris Collins, but his father, Doug Collins, as well. Really good stuff with Brooks Barnheiser, that podcast at 1075thefan.com. James Boyd a little bit earlier, too. He was down at the field house for the matchup with the Fever. They lost with the Valkyries earlier today. That and the Pacers going into the Summer League season in Vegas tomorrow against Cleveland. James Boyd joined us from the Fan Morning Show a little bit earlier, that podcast at 1075thefan.com. And Bria Goss from the Fever Radio Network joined us after the game a little bit earlier. Jake Query is out again tomorrow, and I think the rest of the week, in fact, Manchester, England. He is going to check out Noel and Liam Gallagher and Oasis in what should be a fantastic time, going all the way to Manchester, England to check that out. And we did give 30 minutes of quality Query and Company time after that matinee with the Fever and the Valkyries a little bit earlier today. So thank you all for being a part of the show. If you didn't get on, my apologies for that. We will try it again tomorrow. And then again on Friday. You guys, actually, somebody had asked, I don't have enough time to answer the question right now. But regarding the JMV Takeover, sure. The road show coming up, we may have more than one. I don't know if we're going to have more than one. But I know that we're going to have one coming up on Labor Day weekend. The 3rd annual JMV Takeover on the road at Mystic Waters Campground with Brent Halverson. That is coming up Labor Day weekend. But you ask an interesting question about how the JMV Takeover actually works. And I really can't tell you without making fun of people but we'll do that tomorrow. Remind me of that tomorrow. I don't have enough time to carve it all out for you right now, but it is spectacular every Saturday night on B105.7. It is the JMV Takeover. James, thank you very much for the job you've done today. Brooks Barnheiser, Bria Goss, and James Boyd. Podcast 1075thefan.com. Pacers Summer League opener tomorrow against Cleveland. That and more we'll get into beginning at 3. That's tomorrow. Have a great night. It's 93.5 and 1075 The Fan.